Hi, I'm Charles with AniCap. The story begins by introducing a 9th grader named Mofan after he has taken a senior high school entrance exam. Exams are usually not too much of a problem for Mofan, however this time it's about magic. He explains that after falling asleep wearing a pendant, everything had changed, and everything became more about magic. Other students discuss how difficult the exam was, but a student named Bai says it was too easy for him, and what is really important is the talent they will receive during the magic awakening. Bai's entire family has the ice talent, so it is practically a lock he will as well. Mofan laments how he had studied for 3 months straight, but the exam covered 9 years worth of material. His father Singh tells him to not worry since he has found him a job as a driver that pays well. Mofan explains that he still wants to be a mage, but his father believes his exam results won't be high enough to meet the entrance requirement. Mofan is determined though and convinces his father when he says he will become a great mage who is respected by everyone. Later, Mofan's friend Zhang explains how a girl named Ning Su has returned and is more beautiful than ever, but Mofan is disinterested. As they walk, he spots his father as he begs a powerful man named Muhei to convince the school to admit his son. Muhei says that failing the exam was bad enough, but what is worse is that Mofan had once tried to run away with the heiress of his family, Ning Su. Singh apologizes for that, saying they were found quickly and nothing bad had come from it. He explains that he has served the powerful Mu family for many years and Mofan is serious about becoming a mage. Muhei says that he is a failure and if he had wanted Mofan to pass, he should have educated him better. Singh says he will do anything to help his son and Muhei agrees to help if he pledges his house to him. That night, Mofan gets told the good news but knows the truth as his father explains he will be renting out the house while Mofan lives at school. His father also reveals that Ning Su has finally returned, but Mofan says all he cares about now is studying magic to make lots of money to help their family. That night, he has a memory of when Ning Su had asked him to leave with her as she would rather be anywhere other than home. After they were found, Singh attempts to take the blame and spare Mofan, who is just a child, from punishment. Mu Zhao, however, says he had seduced and kidnapped Ning Su and threatens to break his legs one by one if he sees her again. Days later, some students discuss how everyone will be having their magic awakening that day, and how they all wish to have fire become their talent even though it is extremely rare. In class, a teacher gives the students a badge that will change color after their awakening based on what talent they have. Another student mocks Mofan for only being there because of a favor and laughs at how embarrassing it will be if he can't awaken a talent. Bai is another member of the Mu family and is first to have his awakening. To no one's surprise, he receives the ice talent, and the teacher explains that the stars on the badge will show the strength of their talent. Furthermore, all 7 stars are usually not filled, but Bai has managed to start right away with 1 star, meaning he is exceptional. The rest of the students receive their talents and no one else manages to get even 1 star like Bai. It's Mofan's turn and all the students mock him as well, explaining that even if you received a weak talent, you are still better than Mofan. Mofan touches the orb and pleads to receive anything at all as it would be better than failing. During his awakening, Mofan sees the color purple but has never heard of a talent corresponding to it. The students become excited, but it's for someone else in a separate class since the person has received a lightning talent, which only happens 1 out of every 1,000 awakenings and is the most powerful one. Mofan is left all alone in class during his awakening as the orb changes color. Mofan opens his eyes to see that he is alone and surprised to see that his orb has changed. He begins to wonder if he has awakened both fire and lightning when the bully returns to class. He makes fun of him for still standing there but is shocked to see that he has awakened the rare fire talent. Mofan, however, can't help but laugh as he knows he has actually awakened 2 rare talents, and how everyone's jaws would drop if they knew he had awakened the lightning talent first. He excitedly plans to hide it for a while and reveal it to them at the perfect moment. 2 months later, Mr. Sheng explains how there are 7 stars that revolve around each of their star systems. Their movements are random and the students must concentrate on controlling them into following strict orbits. If they can manage to do it, then they will have completed their magic release. However, after making any progress, when they lose control of a star, they will have to start over. Bai is then asked to demonstrate and reveals that he is now able to control 5 stars, which also shows on his badge. Bai is the fastest learner among all the students as the rest have barely managed to control 3 stars. Mr. Sheng reminds them that their progress will depend on both their ability and their effort they put in. The class bully once again makes fun of Mofan for only having 1 star, assuming that will mean he will fail the end of year exam, even going as far as to mock how his family had to sell their house to get him in the school. The other students are rude as well, claiming they feel better about their own poor results since he is worst of all. However, once he is alone, he explains how it's true he only has 1 star, but that's just for his fire talent. When he practices his lightning talent, he reveals that he is only 1 star away from completing his magic release. Later, he runs into his little sister Zinzaya, who seems upset and looks to find the cause. She says to not do anything as they are outnumbered, but Mofan doesn't care. The leader in a group of bullies explains that he will give her wheelchair back when she agrees to be his girlfriend. When Mofan arrives in her defense, the leader explains that Zinzaya should be grateful someone is interested and that she shouldn't be too picky considering her condition. The bully goes even further, saying he wouldn't mind carrying his sister around, and Mofan can only think about how this has to be the moment where he succeeds. He concentrates on controlling his stars and demands they stop insulting his sister. Mofan, for the first time ever, manages to release a powerful lightning attack. The group now understand that he must be a mage and beg for mercy. Mofan returns his sister's wheelchair and is humble about his newfound power. Elsewhere, Bai explains his progress to his uncle Muhei, who is very pleased to hear about his ability to control 5 stars. Muhei explains that Bai's performance at the final exams will be extremely important since the Mu family's heiress will attend and he must make a good impression. When asked about Mofan, Bai explains that he is doing terrible as he can't even manage to control 1 star, and Muhei explains that he will get Mofan kicked out after he fails the exam. That night, Mofan thinks about how his father has begun working outside the city with his uncle to pay for his education. However, that is extremely dangerous since monsters surround the city and his father is powerless. He begins to work on progressing his fire talent in the bath, but quickly realizes that it is not a good idea. Afterwards, Zinzaya is pleased to see that her brother has mastered lightning magic, but explains that he managed to do it in only 6 months and wonders if he had help from the Black Curia. Mofan has no clue what that is, and she explains that she was taught in class that they are a cult that helps people improve their skills faster. He explains that he would never do that, and when he is alone, admits that he is progressing quite fast. He is concerned that others will begin to think he is part of the cult as well, and has decided to only reveal his fire talent in front of others, while keeping his lightning talent as a trump card. In class, everyone has a silly look on their face, and Mofan turns to see that it's because of an attractive woman. Her name is Miss Tang. She is their new practical magic teacher, and she asks that all fire talents stand up. Mofan is made fun of by the bully for only having 1 star, and Miss Tang gives a demonstration of the level 1 fire magic called Fire Burst. Later, Bai explains to Muhei that he doesn't actually believe Mofan will fail badly enough to be kicked from the school, since that only happens to students who get lower than a D in the final exam. Muhei, however, explains that he has a backup plan. He reveals the dark stone that can absorb magical energy and the light of the crystal ball. The examiner during the test works for him, and he will have him apply the effects of the dark stone on the crystal ball when it is Mofan's turn to be tested, ensuring that he will fail. Muhei still holds a grudge for Mofan's wrongdoings towards the Mu family and vows to make him pay. Elsewhere, Mofan practices his fire talent and explains that there is only 1 month left before the final exam. He has only managed to control 5 stars, which should be okay for the exam, but he would like to perform better in order to impress the Mu family. Time passes quickly, and Mr. Shang explains how the final exam will be done. The crystal ball will measure their magic powers. The brighter it glows, the more power they possess. They will be given grades based on its brightness, ranging from the best A to the worst D. All those that receive a D will be kicked from the school. Furthermore, since it's impossible for most of them to control all 7 stars in just 1 year, they will not be tested on magic release. However, if anyone is able to do it, then they will be moved to the elite class where they will receive a star bracelet that assists in progress. At the exam, the head of the Mu family, Mu Zhao, gives the students a speech, and it is explained that Ning Su is an exceptional student that graduated early and now attends a magic college. She is asked to give a demonstration and amazes everyone with her display of power. The students must be told to quiet down as they all discuss how worried they are that they might not do well. However, they are relieved to see that the exam isn't too difficult after a couple students receive A's. Zhang is feeling pretty confident, so he asks if he could try his magic release, but fails. He is laughed at by his classmates but quickly feels better when he is encouraged by Miss Tang. It is then Bai's turn. He wows the class when the crystal ball glows brightly and Mr. Shang gives him an S grade, the only one in the entire school. Of course he would like to try his magic release as well, and we see that Mu-hei speaks glowingly about him to Mu-zhao. Bai successfully uses his ice magic and is given a B grade for his magic release. Everyone is amazed at what he has managed to accomplish in just 1 year, but Ning-su just thinks he is okay. Mo-fan is then called up for his turn and Mu-zhao wants to leave as there really isn't much left to see, but Ning-su wants to stay. Mu-zhao agrees to watch as he wants to see what he can do after he and his family have sacrificed everything to get there. Mu-hei gives the signal and the dark stone is put in place. Bai watches and can't wait for him to fail so that Ning-su can finally realize how much of a waste of time he really is. Mo-fan begins, but of course the light is weak, and everyone including his teacher thinks he will receive a D. Mu-zhao explains that with a performance like this, Mo-fan is better off just being a driver like his father. Mu-hei piles on, saying he has learned nothing and Mo-fan's father only wasted money paying for the school. However, in that moment, Mo-fan continues and somehow manages to destroy the dark stone. Finally allowing his magic to show, the crystal ball glows brighter and he is given a B. Everyone thinks it's unfair how the worst student could get a B when a grade like that is exceptional and starts to question if the crystal is faulty. Mr. Shang is proud of him, but Miss Tang reveals that that wasn't his real ability. She claims the ball is faulty and insists that he be retested. The students all agree and Mr. Shang asks that she rethink her request since it was not easy for Mo-fan to get into the school. Miss Tang persists and Ning-su agrees with her, asking for a retest as well. After it is replaced, everyone is surprised to see that the crystal ball glows much brighter than before, and Mo-fan is given an S grade. It is clear that the glow was even brighter than Bai's, but Mo-fan explains that he isn't done yet as he would like to try his magic release. Bai is shocked more than anyone, but knows that if Mo-fan spent so much time on controlling the stars, it would be impossible for him to have also mastered the magic release. However, he can only watch in amazement as Mo-fan demonstrates his magical prowess. The story continues as we see that Mo-fan receives the highest grade of A for his magic release. The principal of the school recognizes Mo-fan's hard work and potential, especially considering he is the first mage in his family. This changes Mu-zhao's view of Mo-fan and tells him that he wants to forget his past wrongdoings. Mu-zhao gives him a fire bracelet to help him harness his powers and accepts him into his family. Bai, however, is only told to work harder. Mr. Shang tells Mo-fan to thank the man, but he refuses to be someone's lapdog to be ordered around and explains he isn't spineless like Bai. Mu-zhao must be told to calm down when Mo-fan says he will never forget how Mu-zhao treated him and his father, revealing that Sing still has pain in his back from that day 3 years ago. Mu-hei wants him expelled, but the principal is not willing to go that far, so Bai says they should let him beat some respect into him. Mu-zhao would like his adopted son Yuang to fight instead, and the principal gives Mo-fan another chance to apologize, but he says that a duel is actually what he wants. If he loses, he will apologize, but if he wins, then Mu-zhao must apologize for what he did to his father. The Mage Association, however, forbids underage fighting, so they must wait 2 years before they can have their fight. Mo-fan is informed that Yuang is much stronger than Bai, and realizes he must train hard to prepare. The next semester, we see that Mo-fan is in the elite class with others that have managed to have their magic release. It is explained that they are given numbers based on their powers, and Mo-fan is the best with number 1. It is then explained that the class has 3 bracelets that they will take turns using. The top 3 students get a month each, but Mo-fan will only get to use one for 10 days as punishment for his rude behavior towards Mu-zhao. Furthermore, the bracelets are very precious, and if anyone were to lose or damage them, not only would they be expelled, they would be banned from being a mage. While practicing, Bai explains that there are different levels of bracelets. The one given to the students is able to speed progress by 20%, but one of the spirit bracelets that the Mu family possesses is able to speed up by 40%. It is revealed that Mu-zhao has allowed Yuang to use the bracelet for 6 months in preparation for his fight against Mo-fan. Later, Mo-fan explains that his pendant keeps reacting whenever he practices, however this time it swallows the bracelet. He begs it to spit the bracelet out just as Miss Tang arrives. She assumes from his behavior that he has lost the bracelet and he tells her what happened. He explains the pendant is a family heirloom and she reveals that it is also a magical gear that speeds progress, but it must be fed. Not only does it improve stats, but it can absorb energy and upgrade itself. He thinks about how the thing must be responsible for allowing him to release 2 talents when others couldn't even do 1, and wonders if he will be scolded for having it. He tells Miss Tang he can't control it and that she should keep it. However, she explains that it is one of a kind and senses that it has a spiritual bond with Mofan. She asks that he keep it concealed and explains it will only continue to grow if it feeds on spirits and other magical gears. She promises to settle the matter of the missing bracelet, but he will owe her. Her help makes Mofan wonder if she is actually attracted to his amazing charisma. Later, the students are taken to a field trip to the edge of the safe zone where monsters are kept from entering. Mofan reveals that his fire stardust has been restless and wonders if it is upgrading to level 2. When they arrive, the chief instructor explains that they will take part in a bounty hunt. As long as 1 out of the 100 students manages to complete the hunt, they will all receive A's. The students are concerned since only mages with several years of experience can do bounty hunts among monsters, and Mr. Shang agrees. However, the chief instructor doesn't, explaining they are the best school in Magic City and should show it. Mofan only really cares about what the prize is for completing the bounty hunt, and it is revealed that they will receive magical armor. Mofan knows that Yuang is part of the wealthy Mu family and will definitely have the best armor, so he can't afford to lose. The students pass through some obstacles easily enough once the bounty hunt has begun, allowing them to demonstrate their control over their abilities. They arrive at a cave that had once served as a den for one-eyed wolves. It had been cleared out previously, but the students have been tasked with checking for leftover monsters and finding a lost bracelet. Outside, it is revealed that the chief has ordered someone to watch over them, and Mr. Shang assumes that there aren't actually any wolves left in the cave. The chief says that there is something in there though, and that the students need the experience. Miss Tang thinks about how Mofan is the most powerful among them since he has been practicing with the pendant, but doubts if he will be able to take on a monster. Some students fear an encounter with a monster, but the class bully explains that they just need to stick around by, and he will simply freeze any enemies. Mofan notices that the water in the pond is only half full based on the water line, which is especially odd since it rained after they got there. He must explain to the clueless Zhang that something really big inside the cave must have drunk it all, and he goes to warn the others. However, the other students don't care and mock Zhang for looking for an excuse to not go in since he is so afraid. Moments later, the group is approached by a one-eyed wolf, and Bai's attempt at using magic fails. Another thinks to try but must be rescued by Mofan. It is revealed that the monster is actually a pet in disguise, and the chief is glad since if it was a real monster they all would have died. He knew they wouldn't be able to defeat the pet and hoped they would have at least been able to release some magic. They are disappointed that no one seems up to the task when they begin to see light from the cave and assume it's the gifted Bai. They are correct as Bai holds the wolf back, and we see that the students can't find the rope they used to get down to the cave. The girl Mofan rescued named Minzo confidently returns to the cave and releases a powerful fire attack, which only infuriates the wolf. The other lightning user in the class manages to paralyze it for a moment, but that doesn't last very long. Bai is useless against it, and Minzo's second attempt fails as well. Just then, Mofan arrives, realizing that the level 1 attacks of his classmates are ineffective, and he unleashes his most powerful level 2 fire attack. The wolf is engulfed in flames and must flee to the pond. The instructors are impressed and relieved to see that someone has mastered a level 2 attack. However, it is revealed that the wolf is no longer responding to their commands. It had been originally instructed to not hurt the students, but now seems to be out of control. The students do their best to avoid the out-of-control beast, and Mofan realizes he is the last of the top students to still be capable of fighting. Zhang comes to help him, but the two must retreat further into the cave. Minzo explains that they are at a great disadvantage the further in the cave they go. Some students are grateful for their bravery, while others say their death shouldn't be in vain, so they should leave. Minzo wants to go in after them just as the chief arrives and is brought up to speed on the situation. Inside, Zhang bravely rescues Mofan from an attack but is gravely injured. This sends Mofan over the edge, and he finally decides to unleash his lightning magic. His first attack is hardly effective but manages to stun it a bit, and Mofan comes up with a plan. It works just as planned, and the monster is finally defeated. A light emerges from its body and enters Mofan's pendant. The chief arrives and is amazed that Mofan had somehow managed to defeat the wolf. He knows that his fire magic wouldn't have killed it, and Mofan explains how he had used a rock to pierce it. He begs that they get Zhang some medical assistance, but the chief still can't get over how Mofan managed to do it, especially considering that the speed and reflexes of the wolf would have been able to dodge the rock easily. He begs that he focus on Zhang again, and so they leave. The owner of the pet wolf is furious that the chief killed it, but is shocked along with everyone else when it is revealed that Mofan had done it. The owner refuses to believe that, since his pet is even more powerful than normal monsters and could easily have killed even experienced mages. They all still think it had to be the chief, and when asked, Mofan explains how he did it without revealing his use of lightning magic. As the instructor cries over his pet, nearby students finally begin to give some credit to Mofan for his bravery and understand now why he is number 1 in the class. Miss Tang explains to them that if the pet was an actual monster, they would have all been killed when they initially encountered it, since they failed to use any magic, and that monsters they meet in the future will be bloodthirsty killers that show no mercy. The bounty hunt didn't go as planned, but all the students will still receive an A, and Mofan will receive an S. However, another instructor mentions that Mofan not only used level 2 magic, but also defeated the wolf, which is deserving of the armor, and everyone agrees. Afterwards, Mofan is awarded a medal and offered a position working for the chief after he graduates, but he only wants to know where his armor is. Other students are given their award next, but the chief can't get over how Mofan managed to win the fight and begins to question if he had not told the whole truth. The story continues as we see that 2 months have passed and Mofan credits his pendant with increasing his progress by 20%. He noticed that his classmate's level 1 fire magic barely damaged the wolf, but his level 2 fire magic did major damage. This makes him curious about what level 2 thunder magic will be able to do, since thunder is the strongest element. He realizes that he isn't strong enough yet since he couldn't rely solely on magic in the fight and needs to improve faster. He remembers that his pendant will be able to upgrade itself if it is fed large amounts of energy, and if it gets to the spirit level, it would speed up his progress by 40%. The stuff the pendant needs to feed on costs money, so he begins to consider if he should become a bounty hunter since they are all well paid and he would gain combat experience. The next day, Mofan goes to the bounty hunter's hall and finds 2 men looking over their options for hunter jobs. The jobs are far too difficult for inexperienced mages, so one of the men wonders if he should join the monster hunters instead, since the salary is good and they have a roof above their head. The man is told that he would never be hired as the monster hunters only hire the best of the best. Mofan sees that there are a lot of people attempting to join the monster hunters and is told to not bother interviewing since it would only be a waste of time. Someone as young as Mofan wouldn't stand a chance since the hunters fight real monsters. However, the man explains that what is most important is the talent you have, and if someone has the fire talent, they might have a better chance at being hired even if they are very inexperienced. Mofan asks about those who have the lightning talent, and the man can only laugh since only 1 in 1,000 get that talent. He explains that every team would want them regardless of experience, but they wouldn't even need to go to the hall since the rich and powerful would have snapped them up already. We then see that the monster hunters are becoming frustrated with the weak applicants they are seeing, as their leader only wants powerful, experienced, elite mages. The man from earlier waits in the interview line and is disappointed to see Mofan in the line as well since he knows that it's his first time at the hall. When questioned, Mofan lies and tells them that he has already graduated and that his name is Fanmo. The hunters explain that they are only looking for mid-level hunters, but Fanmo isn't even certified. However, Fanmo proves to them that he has the lightning talent, and the hunter captain reveals himself to welcome him to their team. Fanmo explains that he is not certified, but the captain says he will get it for him. Fanmo has no experience, but the captain says he will gain some. Fanmo has only achieved level 1, but that actually impresses the captain since it's harder to upgrade the lightning talent. He is introduced to the other members but are interrupted by news of a monster on the loose. The captain tells Fanmo to wait for them to return, but he asks that he go along since he is already part of the team. It is revealed that the disturbance is happening at his sister's school. Mofan can't help but worry when it is explained that a student has gone missing and Zenzaya doesn't answer her phone. The team split up and Fanmo is tasked with checking the cafeteria. While there, Zenzaya would finally return his call and explain that she is safe, but witness says another student had been going into the cafeteria when she was leaving. Mofan explains that she should worry about taking care of herself only, just as a monster appears behind him. Mofan can barely manage to avoid its attacks, and the other hunters make their way to him after sensing the monster. There is nowhere for Mofan to run, so he determines he must fight it. Just as the monster unleashes its attack, the rest of the team arrive and demonstrate their difference in strength and experience. The captain uses level 3 fire magic to deal massive damage, putting the monster down. However, Sayaki becomes a bit careless and isn't able to defend Chai in time, but Fanmo's lightning ability saves her. The captain is furious with Sayaki for not being prepared, since it's her responsibility to protect the others using her water talent. Fanmo is then praised for his quick reaction and promoted to a full-time member of the team. Mofan must contain his excitement when he realizes that a promotion means a higher salary and maybe even some bonuses. The rat's spirit emerges from its corpse and is consumed by Mofan's pendant, and no one else seems to be able to see it. Unfortunately though, the rat spirit is weak and doesn't do much to upgrade the pendant. It is then revealed that the team could not find the missing girl, but there is evidence that other monsters had dragged her through a deep tunnel that was found. The team debates whether or not to go in after them and determine that the girl might already be dead. The captain decides to alert the Association of Magical Societies since it's something they cannot handle. Later, it's explained that the association has taken over the matter, and the captain once again praises Fanmo after originally underestimating him. They tease Chai for owing her life to him, but determine Fanmo must already be taken since they found his phone with dozens of missed calls from a girl. That night, it is revealed to have been his sister calling since she had heard the fight over the phone and was worried sick. He reassures her that he can take care of himself and gives her a play-by-play of his victorious battle. The next day, Fanmo receives his first check, and it is explained that their decisive action has earned them a bonus. Elsewhere, we see that Muhei is a bit of a pervert when he goes to inform Yu Wang that he has been called to see his father. Muhei is impressed with his progress so far, but Yu Wang believes he has not been progressing fast enough. Muhei explains that he has reached level 2 magic much faster than his peers, and won't be long before reaching level 3. Yu Wang is growing impatient though, since that will take at least a year, and compares himself to Ningsu. Muhei reminds him though that Ningsu is an exceptional person, and he should not compare himself to her. Furthermore, his focus should only be on teaching Mofan a lesson, but Yu Wang believes that he is not a worthy opponent. When speaking to his father, Yu Wang explains that he wishes he had chosen a more worthy opponent. Mizao agrees that it is beneath him to duel with a loser like Mofan, but explains that it is what the principal wanted. Furthermore, it is what must be done as his first step in controlling the city, and this captures his interest. Mizao goes on to explain that one person every year is chosen to practice in something called the Sacred Spring. The school and all the old families desperately want that opportunity. Mizao wants Yu Wang to display his overwhelming power against Mofan to send a message to everyone. Elsewhere, Muhei explains to Bai that Ningsu is the true heir to the family and that Yu Wang is only meant to be a stepping stone for her. Bai wonders if Mofan will earn the right to practice in the Sacred Spring if he is victorious against Yu Wang, but is told that it would never happen. We then get a glimpse of a bright light that seems to emanate from a one-eyed monster. In class, Mofan must explain that he hasn't been around lately because he has been busy saving the city, when Zhang wonders if Zou has a thing for Mofan. Zou asks if he is free that night, and Mofan thinks about how she must have fallen for him when he saved her from the wolf. He plans to let the poor girl down easy by explaining that their priority at that age is to study, but agrees to see her that night anyway. That night, he wonders how odd of a place that is for a first date, and Zou explains that is where the tremors had occurred. Her grandmother has been feeling nightly tremors coming from there, and the place is believed to be haunted, but she refuses to move. The reason Zou asked Mofan to come was so that he could investigate, since he is the top-ranked mage in school, which seems to disappoint him a bit. He makes his way into the abandoned building and thinks about how she was smart to ask him for help, since he is one of the monster hunters and has managed to bag 8 to 9 monsters so far. He uses some revealing powder to see footsteps of a monster, and Zou wonders if they should inform a hunter, but Mofan knows that won't be necessary. Just then, the one-eyed wolf monster appears as it's finished up a meal, and Zou is terrified as the two of them are only students with no chance of fighting it. This wolf is twice as big as the ones that have been shown in class, and Mofan explains that there are several homeless there that the wolf may have been feeding on. Zou wants to run away, so Mofan tells her to go to her grandmother, evacuate her block, and call the police there. Zou doesn't wait though and begins to call the cops there, which only manages to attract the monster. Mofan tells her to follow through with his instructions, but she doesn't want to leave him to die. He manages to convince her though, and is left to fight the monster alone. This wolf is much stronger than the one before, and Mofan only manages to survive its attack because of his magical armor. We then see that Chai, the hunter who is also a member of the Mu family, has received Fanmo's signal, and Zou directs them to the building where her friend Mofan is. Mofan prepares to use his fire attack just as Chai and Yuang arrive to subdue the monster. Chai has only seen Fanmo with a mask on, so she doesn't recognize him, but remembers Mofan from a memory long ago. She explains how he is the one that insulted the Mu family to Yuang, and he can't believe how much of a coward he is for running without hesitation. Chai contacts the captain, informing him that the monster seems to have mutated after absorbing power leak from the sacred spring, and requests they find Fanmo immediately so he can use his lightning magic to sedate it. Mofan changes into his disguise and explains that as a student his talent is fire, and as a hunter his talent is lightning. Keeping them separate is important so that no one knows he has more than one talent. The captain requires that everyone focus since the mutated wolf can kill them all in an instant. The problem is, ice and lightning alone won't be able to kill the beast, and if the captain were to use his fire magic, that would only free the monster from its ice prison. Their main goal now is to keep the wolf from escaping and attacking the city while they wait for help from the association. However, that proves to be difficult as the monster breaks free and they realize that it has begun to evolve into an even stronger monster. The story continues as we see the team of monster hunters realize that they are no match for the evolving wolf. Some members would like to retreat, but their captain reminds them of the innocent citizens that will be in danger if they do. The monster begins to evolve into a warrior level thorn-faced wolf, so the captain decides they must act fast before it completes its mutation. The monster's blood begins to boil to the point where the ice is no longer effective, so their captain uses his powerful fire attack. They all breathe a sigh of relief when the monster stops moving, but must quickly defend themselves when the wolf attacks once again. Sayaki's water shield slows it for a moment, but Fanmo realizes it won't last and carries her to safety. The captain's level 3 fire magic seems to be less effective than before, and Sayaki's effort to protect the captain fails. The monster brushes off both ice and earth attacks as it continues its pursuit of the captain. As everyone begins to fear for the captain's life, Fanmo steps up to finally reveal his level 2 lightning magic. Fanmo attempts to stop it from evolving further, while the others take the opportunity to rescue the captain. The monster begins to overcome his lightning magic as well, but Fanmo is determined to outlast the beast. Everyone now fears death more than ever and again asks to retreat while Fanmo holds it off. The captain can't believe their cowardice and explains that their lives mean nothing compared to the hundreds of thousands that will die if they run. He can't believe they call themselves monster hunters and praises Fanmo for his bravery. The captain's speech and Fanmo's bravery inspire the others to make the ultimate sacrifice. However, in that moment, the monster is submerged in water and the team sees that help from the association has finally arrived in the form of a man named Yanzo. He praises Fanmo on a job well done and instantly dominates the monster. Yanzo explains that it is now dead and Mofan's pendant once again consumes its spirit. Fanmo is amazed to have seen mid-level magic and Yanzo explains that he can see Fanmo becoming a mid-level mage one day too. Chai asks if they should sound the alarm since more monsters have been appearing recently, but Yanzo says he doesn't want to panic everyone and would like to investigate first. He is also impressed with their new member's performance, but Yuang is not pleased at all. That night, Mofan attempts to sneak back into his dorm when he is hugged by Zoe, who is grateful for his help in making the area safe again for her grandmother. Later, he notices that his pendant has been behaving differently since eating the wolf spirit and sees that it has finally evolved to the spirit level, which means he will progress much faster. He is now more confident than ever that he will be able to reach level 3 on his fire talent before fighting the arrogant Yuang. The next day, Mofan gives his sister some money and explains that she can buy whatever she wants with it. She refuses to take it as she wants him to use it on himself, but Mofan explains that he simply got a part-time job and that mages can actually make money quite easily. She accepts his gift and explains that she has good news to tell him. She reveals that she has just awakened the healing talent, which is a surprise since beginners typically can only awaken element magic. White, dark, and dimensional magic are usually for higher level mages, but Zinzaya says there are some exceptions and she happens to be one of them. She reveals that she knows he is doing dangerous things and she hopes to help him in the future. Mofan then explains that hunting is not too dangerous, but jokes that he will get himself hurt so she can practice her healing magic on him. Days later, Mofan thinks about how time is flying since he is so busy with school and monster hunting. Yang reminds him to stay focused since his duel with Yuang is approaching quickly and informs him that Mizao has invited several famous and powerful people to watch. He intends for the duel to be part of Yuang's coming of age ceremony. Mofan is quite famous for being the top student at the top magical school, and dominating him in front of the entire city would prove that Yuang has no equal. Miss Tang informs him that the principal would like to see him, and Mofan uses the opportunity to ask if he could visit her home that night for advice on fire magic, which she agrees to. The principal explains that their duel is actually about more than just Yuang's coming of age celebration. He explains that it also involves the sacred spring. Mofan thinks about how the only time he has ever heard about it was when the mutated wolf had absorbed its power, causing it to evolve, and he becomes interested in training in it. The principal goes on to explain that anyone who trains there can quickly increase their powers, but the power of the spring has been diminishing over time. The city has a convention that permits access to only one top young mage each year. The school will recommend Mofan, but the local clans will choose Yuang, and their duel will likely determine which of the two get to train there. For Mizao, Yuang's victory will kill 3 birds with 1 stone. First, Yuang will prove his abilities to the city. Second, Mofan will be taught a lesson. And third, Yuang will gain access to the spring. Yuang has a huge advantage in training resources, and they only ask that Mofan try his best so that he can at least earn the school some recognition. Elsewhere, servants gossip about how the duel against Mofan is simply to make Yuang look good, and that Mofan is just a hoodlum that brought it on himself. They discuss how Mofan's father is a fool and raised his son the same way. Inside, Mizao explains to Ningsu that his adopted son Yuang would do anything for their family and that he will one day become her loyal assistant. She wonders why the duel has to be done in public. Mizao explains that a duel between the so-called best student in Sky Magic High School and the second strongest mage in their family behind her could never be a small event. Furthermore, Mofan has insulted him several times and he refuses to have mercy on him. That night, Mofan is atop a hill when he is approached by Ningsu, and he explains that he wanted to see the splendid stage her father has set up for his duel. She asks that he not show up to the fight since Yuang will not pull any punches. Her father adopted him off the streets at a young age and he will do anything for Mizao's approval, which leads her to believe he will come down on Mofan with all his might. She warns that Yuang will beat him so badly that he will be unable to take his final exam that is in less than a month. He refuses to run. He explains that his father has always done everything he could to help him and his sister their entire life, without a single complaint. He points out that even though Mizao is a terrible person that doesn't respect her decisions, Ningsu does not hate him, so an amazing father like his deserves all the respect he can give. Mofan had watched his father beg, watched him get mocked, insulted, and humiliated by others, but now has the chance to prove to everyone that his father is not a fool. On the day of the big event, Chai greets the other members of the Monster Hunters when Mofan arrives to say hello. Chai is very rude, claiming that Yuang will destroy him, and Mofan remembers that they don't recognize him without his disguise. Mofan stuffs his face with food when the chief greets him and is surprised to see that he has such an appetite before a fight. He asks again if he would like to join his army, but Mofan declines since he has no interest in living in the mountains. His classmates arrive and explain that they are there to cheer him on, but are weary since Mizao invited his father, making them think he is plotting something. Mofan, however, assures him that his father is only there to watch him win. Mizao would then give a speech about the bright future of the city and the duel he has set up to demonstrate that. Later, Mofan and Yuang enter the arena. Mr. Sheng points out that Yuang is carrying at least 3 magical gears, giving him a huge advantage. Mizao gives one more speech, but would rather just allow Yuang to demonstrate the results of his years of practice. Zhou can't believe that Mizao didn't even mention Mofan's name, and Bai points out that it's because he is simply there to compliment Yuang. The two duelists shake hands, and Yuang explains that Mofan will be bedridden for at least 3 months after the beating, but Mofan remains confident. The duel begins and Mofan immediately counters Yuang's level 2 ice magic with a simple fire burst. However, his counterattacks are dodged easily and he can't figure out why. He tries a few more times and it becomes apparent to the teachers that he has on magical shoes that allow mages to move much faster. Yuang insults his weak abilities, saying he would rather not waste much time fighting him, and that Mofan needs to learn that there are people he shouldn't mess with. Yuang prepares his next attack, freezing the area around Mofan and making everyone realize that he has obtained level 3 ice magic. His ice storm covers the entire arena and puts out Mofan's flames. The principal wants to call the fight, but Mizao only has thoughts of making Mofan suffer for his insults. The audience has already made the decision that Yuang will win since he has managed to achieve so much and that no one his age stands a chance. Mofan thinks about how powerful the ice magic is and how difficult it is making it for him to control his stars. However, as usual, he continues to persist and shocks everyone when he finally manages to reach a level 3 fire burst. Yuang is confident his shoes will get him to safety, but he is wrong as Mofan's flames reach him, causing a massive explosion. Yuang is badly injured, and the audience can't believe Mofan was able to fight evenly with someone from a privileged family. Yuang isn't done though. He laughs at how a loser like Mofan was able to make it to level 3 and reveals his full body magic armor. The instructors can't help but point out how unfair the match is when Yuang is using several magic items, and acknowledge that Mofan would have won under normal circumstances. Mizao explains that he wouldn't stop Mofan from using magic armor, and it's not his fault he doesn't have any. The chief instructor pleads for Mofan to stop fighting since the armor is fireproof, and Mofan has already proven his extraordinary abilities to everyone. Yuang says that he should listen to him and quit. He explains that his family has always believed that their money is part of what makes someone strong, and that Mofan should be more upset at his father for being a poor driver that can't give him anything. Mofan remembers the sacrifice his father made for him to get into magic school and the constant encouragement he provided. He explains that his father has actually given him everything and decides to show Yuang what real power is. Everyone is in disbelief as Mofan finally reveals his lightning talent. They don't understand how he can have 2 talents without even being a mid-level mage yet, and the monster hunters realize that Mofan and Fanmo are the same person. Yuang is more stunned than anyone, and Mofan explains that he has actually unlocked his level 3 lightning magic as well. As he uses it, Miss Tang explains that lightning magic is able to penetrate armor, and Mizao watches in despair as Yuang desperately tries to keep from being consumed by it. Moments later though, the battle ends and everyone can't get over how amazing it is that Mofan has 2 talents. Having the 2 most rare talents is incredible enough, but the fact that he has gotten to level 3 on both speaks to his determination. Yuang can hardly move and Mofan confidently claims his victory. The story continues after the duel, as everyone realizes how much of a prodigy and genius Mofan is. He approaches Mizao and demands his reward for winning. Muhe begs that his brother not do it, but Mizao is a man of his word and apologizes to Mofan's father for his impulsive behavior. He then formally announces Mofan's victory and grants him the right to train in the sacred spring for 7 days. Later, everyone celebrates his victory and discuss how bright a future he has, whether that be with the Magic Association or prestigious schools. Mr. Sheng reminds everyone though to not give up and work hard to achieve goals of their own. Zoe is excited to see Mofan's progress after training at the Sacred Spring since he should be able to use mid-tier magic afterwards. Mofan goes to visit his father and we get a glimpse of a group of robed men having a discussion in the shadows. One of them explains that they never expected Mofan to be an innate dual element wielder and they had underestimated him. The group's plan has failed since Yuang didn't earn the right to train at the spring, and it is explained that the higher-ups have lost their patience after all the wasted time. The young member apologizes for failing and begs for another chance, promising to do better next time. However, the group has already made their decision to punish him. Later, Zhang helps his friend gain more confidence in her abilities when they spot Mofan and Zinzaya. Mofan wonders why she chose that specific bracelet over all the others, and Zinzaya simply says that she liked it. What makes it really special though is that they picked it together, and he bought it as a gift for her 16th birthday. Zhang reminds him that today is the day Mofan begins his training at the spring, and offers to escort Zinzaya home for him. That night, Mofan arrives at the building where his training will take place, and is met by Miss Tang and Mizao, who is a bit annoyed to have been waiting for so long. Miss Tang gives him a star map book that will help with releasing mid-tier magic. He is then met by Captain Zuda, who can't believe he didn't realize Famo's true identity sooner, and explains that training at the spring is a dream for every mage that should be cherished. Zuda is there to continue the investigation of the girl that went missing from the high school where they fought the rat. The girl in charge of protecting the sacred spring named Lin is her older sister, and she is helping provide information. He goes on to explain that after searching the tunnel the rat had used, a strange fluid was found and is suspected to be linked to the spring. However, that is all the information he is willing to give and wishes Mofan luck in becoming the second youngest mid-tier mage in the city, after Ningsu. In a lab, it is explained that the fluid is from a spring very similar to the sacred spring. However, its effect will bring any living thing to a berserk stage and trigger their innate violent potential. They conclude it must be the reason more rats are appearing recently and decide to call the tainted liquid the Violent Spring. Security grants Mofan access to the spring and he begins his training. He is immediately able to feel the effects of the spring as his pendant begins to react. Mofan remarks how excited it is and wonders if it wants to drink all the water. He asks that it come down a bit and promises to get it a girlfriend when they get out. Elsewhere, Mofan's father completes a delivery. Some soldiers congratulate him on his son's performance in the duel and explain that all the influential organizations are fighting over him. They believe that his family's future is secure and wonder why he still works as a driver. He explains that soldiers like them work hard to protect their city, and he finds joy in being able to provide even minor things like groceries to them. Outside, a couple soldiers remark how the color of the rain looks like pee, and are told to get back to work by Officer Kong. We then get a glimpse into the forest as we see several infuriated monsters preparing for an attack. Back at the training facility, Zuda has finished his investigation and asks that Lin care for Mofan when he gets out, as a week of training will certainly take a toll on him. At the border, it is explained to Officer Kong that a patrol team has not returned yet. We then watch as the team leader explains how light mages will have to use their magic to send signals in case of emergency, since communication devices attract monsters. Just then, they are attacked by a ferocious wolf, and Army headquarters sees the emergency lights. The remaining members of the patrol team must eventually use devices to contact headquarters since their light mages have been killed, and they are desperate, but it's too late as the monsters make their way to them. Officer Kong declares it a level 4 emergency, which shocks everyone since that is the alarm for a dire disaster, and he explains that every minute wasted will mean the death of hundreds of citizens. Back at the facility, Mofan attempts to control some stars but fails and realizes that even with the help of the spring, using mid-tier magic won't come easily. He has lost track of time, wondering how many days have passed and how his friends are doing. Outside, the citizens hear the alarm and Mr. Shang directs everyone back into the school, explaining that monsters have appeared. Miss Tang rescues the boy from danger but is astonished to see a winged wolf above her. The army do their best to hold the border, and a mid-tier mage impresses everyone with his strength. He attempts to inspire everyone to continue fighting, but is taken out instantly by a white wolf. Officer Kong is informed of the massive number of monsters appearing inside the city and can't understand how since their border hasn't been breached. Defending the border is pointless if the citizens are being attacked, so he decides to send several mages to the city. At the facility, Mofan remembers the instructions given by Miss Tang. He must strengthen his Stardust if he is to have a chance at evolving them into star clouds, and in turn becoming a mid-tier mage. After that, he will have to train the way he did when first becoming a mage in order to use mid-tier magic. The main difference, however, is now there will be 49 stars for him to connect. Miss Tang, being the kind person she is, has gifted Mofan with the Star Map book that will allow him to release mid-tier magic temporarily. He mistakes her kindness for attraction, fantasizing about what would happen if he stopped trying to connect stars and asked to connect their lips instead. He snaps out of it and wonders if the distraction was actually a trial created by the sacred spring. Ningsu expresses her concern for Mofan as her family flees their building, but must focus when they are met by several monsters. Mizao was injured in the process, but they manage to escape, and she can't help but worry for Mofan. Elsewhere, the robed men reveal that it was due to Yuang's failure that they had to act now, and that their goal of bringing down the central building will be made easier with the help of some one-eyed rats. Mofan trains hard but is interrupted when the ground begins to shake. He emerges from the training room to find giant rats are attacking and must run back in with Vice Team Leader Lin. She then activates an emergency procedure that drains the spring and captures it inside a bottle. Lin uncovers a hidden tunnel and explains that it is so old that she doesn't even know where it leads, but they have no other option. She then explains to him that a group called the Black Order has added a liquid called the Violent Spring into the rain, and it makes monsters go berserk. The Snow Peak station that Officer Kong controls has lost its guard, and she can only guess how bad the situation has gotten in the city. The moment is tense, and when Mofan's nose bleeds, he explains that a rat monster must have hurt him. They exit the tunnel and are confused as to why it leads to his school, but forget that instantly when they get a view of the dire condition the city is in. The streets are overrun by monsters, and we see that a group of men try to make their way to a safe house. However, they encounter a feeding monster and catch its attention. Their efforts to escape are completely useless as the monster quickly hunts them down one by one. Lin explains that the level 4 emergency alarm has been sounded, and Mofan is shocked as that means there are hundreds and even thousands of monsters. Lin reveals she has never encountered this level of crisis, and Mofan can only think about the safety of his family. We are then shown how Zenzaya narrowly escapes death. The man who saves her would like to help others, but the group decide it's too dangerous and close the entrance to the building they are in. He explains that they still aren't safe, and should make their way to the underground market since it has a stronger gate. Mofan makes it clear that he must go save his family, but Lin requests that he help her with something first. She gives him the sacred spring water and explains that he must deliver it to the safe zone. Lin explains that her prominent position in the army will make it obvious to the Black Order that she has taken the spring with her, so she can't do it herself. Furthermore, she is a mage of the military, and even if there is no hope left for the city, she must still be there to defend it. It is up to him now to protect the spring water, because if the Black Order gets a hold of it, then the crisis will extend far beyond their city. Mofan refuses since his only focus is on finding his family, but she objects, reminding him that he is not the only one that has people they love. The guards that sacrificed their lives to protect him while in the spring had families too. Lin herself had lost her sister a year ago while she was on a vital mission. She explains that they have a duty as mages to protect the people of the city that are powerless. Mofan now understands and asks Lin to protect his family if she happens to find them in the city. Mofan's father does what he can to make his way home, as he can only hope for his children's safety. He picks up the stranded Muhei, who wants to go to the safe zone, but he explains that he must go into the city to get Mofan. Muhei says that there is nothing that can save Mofan now, since the Sacred Spring was the first area to come under attack. It would be better for them to go to the safe zone, since Mofan might be there if he is still alive. But Singh says that Muhei could either get out of the vehicle now or go with him to the city. At the border, Officer Kong determines he must go defend the city, but Yanzo says he will go instead so that he can stay to regain the border. Mofan arrives at his school to find a weakening barrier surrounding it. With monsters at every corner, the students inside stand no chance at surviving. Bai manages to rescue Zoe, but must remind her that they won't be able to save everyone. They are told that the upper floors are overrun by wolves, so they decide to head to the stadium. We see that another student fails to use magic under pressure, but the school's other lightning user manages to defeat a monster. Zhang promises to Yuhei that he will get them out, and proves it when they come under attack. However, he must beg her to run away when he is pinned by yet another beast. Seconds away from being killed, a lightning strike emerges, pushing the monster back, and we see that Mofan has finally arrived. The monster proves to be quite strong, but Zhang lowers its defense, and Mofan uses his fire burst to finish it off. The situation is worsening rapidly, so they head to the stadium where everyone seems to be gathering. The story continues as we see Bai's group arrive at the gymnasium and reunite with the other survivors. Faculty members discuss how they are not completely safe there, but don't have many options since nowhere is safe. It is a level 4 disaster and the capital has fallen. One man remembers that the safe zone is protected by a barrier and warns that staying at the school will only result in their eventual death. Someone points out that if they leave in a large group, they will surely be spotted, but if it were just the teachers, then they would at least have a chance. Mr. Sheng explains that it is their duty to protect the students, but the others think that doesn't matter in times of desperation. Their solution is to have a small team scout ahead as the rest follow, and decide to find volunteers among their strongest students. Zoe decides to volunteer, and we see that Zhang worries about how dangerous joining the scouting group would be. However, Mofan explains that it is far more dangerous to be with the main group, since its large number of students will surely attract several monsters. The large majority of them are weak and would not be able to put up a fight, so they decide to join the scouting group as well. Everyone is relieved to see the heroic Mofan, and Zhang must get a reality check when he thinks they are admiring him. Elsewhere, Lin struggles to fight a monster when she is rescued by Yanzo, and they discuss how it is obvious that the monsters are the doing of Black Curia. They are unsure of the group's ultimate goal, but know that they are after the Sacred Spring. She explains that she successfully extracted the spring and has entrusted it to Mofan. He believes she made the right decision since no one would expect the student to have the spring, but Mofan isn't a mid-tier mage yet and will have a difficult time surviving the attack on the city. They then split up to find Mofan. Elsewhere, Mizao and Ningsu arrive at the safe zone with its protective barrier, and she asks if any students from Sky Magic High School have arrived. They take her father to get care and explain that no students are there, which grows her concern for Mofan. The scout team makes their way through the city and spread out to get a better view. Zhang spots a cyclops as it feeds, but is shocked to find that it has disappeared in an instant. They can't just leave it be and decide to hunt it. Wind mages have incredible speed, so Mr. Sheng asks that they take the lead. Zhang is one of them, and Yuhei expresses her concern for him. Her concern was misplaced though, as the other wind mage is the one that gets struck down by the monster. A cyclops appears behind Yuhei, but Mofan manages to stun it, and Mr. Sheng finishes it off. They are in disbelief at how quickly one of them has died, and Mr. Sheng explains it was his fault for not noticing the monster, but Mofan says that it was simply because they were too weak. Mr. Sheng would like to know how Mofan managed to remain calm throughout the encounter, and he explains it's because he had joined the monster hunters his sophomore year. However, even after 2 years of fighting, he is still scared in certain situations. Zhang returns to report that there are 3 one-eyed wolves in the area, and one of the students is glad to hear there are so few. However, Mofan explains that the wolves are far stronger than the Cyclops. Mofan comes up with a plan where Zhang will have to distract one of the wolves. He explains that they are fast in straight lines but slow down when moving in different directions, so he can evade it if he predicts its movements. The second wolf will be taken by Bai, who will try to trap it with his ice. The rest of the group will attempt to kill the final wolf quickly and finish the other 2 afterwards. Mofan explains with their combined talents they will surely be able to defeat the monsters, and everyone agrees to follow his orders. They then begin to execute his plan. Zhang attempts to sneak up on one of the wolves as he remembers Mofan's instructions. He reminds himself to be brave like Mofan and thinks about how he will approach the monster, making sure to run in different directions as it chases him. He freezes for a moment when eye contact is made with the horrific beast, but snaps out of it just in time. His magic talent serves him well as he manages to avoid its attacks, however that doesn't last long as Zhang is struck. He realizes that the beast was using the trees to change direction but can't think for long as the relentless attack continues. After managing to stun it for a moment, Zhang realizes just how much of a difference in their strength there is, and wishes for someone to come help him. He is able to come out of that mindset however, reminding himself that no one is coming and he must do his job so that it won't go after Mofan and the others. He comes up with a plan just as the monster approaches and for the first time ever uses level 3 wind magic to evade its attack. The monster seems much slower to him now, and with some newfound confidence he turns to face the beast. He manages to trick it, watching as it kills itself and realizing that they aren't as scary as he thought they'd be. In the forest, we see that the wolf Bai is meant to fight simply walks over his ice magic, and he realizes that he won't be able to freeze it for very long. He decides that they must inform the others, and his partner asks that the 2 of them just abandon the group, but Bai explains that they have no chance of surviving without the others. We see that the rest of the group is managing to hold a wolf when Zhang arrives in desperate need of medical assistance. Bai then arrives but is being closely followed by the other wolf who is closing the gap quickly. Mofan leaves the half-dead wolf to the rest of the group and lends a hand to Bai. He uses his amazing combination of fire and lightning magic to not only stop it but defeat it as well. Bai can't help but wonder when exactly did Mofan become so powerful. Elsewhere, Mofan's father must stop his quest to find Mofan when he gets a flat tire. He fears monsters might appear while fixing the tire alone, and Muhei says that is why he should hurry up. Singh struggles and asks that Muhei help him, but is surprised to see that he has disappeared. The scout team is amazed that they were able to defeat 3 one-eyed wolves and credit Mofan's orders for their victory. Humble as usual, Mofan explains that he was only able to safely defeat the final wolf alone because Bai's magic has slowed it down. He explains to everyone that teamwork is more important than anything and each talent serves a purpose. Of the 2 types of monsters they are fighting, the Cyclops is the easiest, but the wolves are much more savage and cunning, making them extremely difficult to kill. Bai explains that he already knows that, and Mofan tells him that his talent is most important of all. He reminds him that his talent is to be used to protect everyone, but Bai's friend says that he should be fending for himself. Mofan shows his growth as he puts the person who had always bullied him in his place. He then tells Yuhei to work with Mr. Shang, and she expresses doubt as she blames herself for not protecting their killed teammate. Zhang once again encourages her to have more confidence, but then loses consciousness. His wound won't stop bleeding, and Mr. Shang explains that it's due to the monster's special attack. Bandages and even burning of the wound won't stop the bleeding either. The only thing that will stop the bleeding is special medication, and in that moment, Mr. Shang remembers that a pharmacy is nearby. They must hurry to the safe zone, so Mofan tells him to go ahead while he goes to get the medication, but Zhang waits for a moment to ask that he not risk his life for him. Mofan explains that they need him to get better so that he can lead the group with his wind talent, and that he won't take long. While Mofan makes his way to the pharmacy, one of the team members uses wave detection to determine that there aren't any monsters nearby. Zhang reveals he is in quite a bit of pain but is confident Mofan will return soon. The silence makes them all a bit weary, so they proceed with extra caution. Zhang explains that in the wilderness, silence is usually a sign of danger. Zhou can't understand why they are so worried since there are no sounds of footsteps from monsters, and the wave detection didn't reveal any either. However, Bai senses something and reveals to them a monster they haven't seen before. Bai explains that it is the warrior level thorn-faced wolf. Elsewhere, we see that Lin is in trouble after rescuing a boy, but is saved when another member of the military arrives. She recognizes him as Instructor Yang, and he explains that the post at the border has been abandoned. He is now on his way to Sky Magic High School to protect the student. She acknowledges how he is able to move freely since he is on his wolf, and decides to hand the matter of searching and protecting Mofan to the military. Her responsibility now will be to act as a distraction for the Black Curia, since they most likely believe she has the sacred spring. Mofan finally arrives at the pharmacy. He vows to not let Zhang die, as he has a fond memory of how Zhang had talked about wanting to attend a good university, and eventually moving to a bigger city where he could do more meaningful things. He plans to work hard though so that he won't be left behind by Mofan, and Mofan expresses his excitement since a bigger city means more beautiful women. Bai explains to the team that there are different levels of monsters. The lowest are the slaves, next are the warriors, and finally the commanders. The ones they have fought have all been slaves, but the warrior level ones are known as mage killers. They stand absolutely no chance against a warrior level monster in front of them, since they will simply freeze if they look into its eyes, and Zhang wonders if Mofan might encounter one as well. Mofan finds a monster hiding in the pharmacy, but is relieved to see that he has found the medicine needed to treat Zhang. The rat ends up outside, and Mofan watches as it gets devoured by the much larger thorn-faced wolf. He thinks about how he has never encountered a warrior level monster, and realizes that it must have been so quiet because the other monsters were all hiding from it. He then freezes as he stares into the eyes of the warrior level monster, and it crushes the entire building. Bai decides that they need to hurry, but Zhou says they should slow down a bit for Mofan. He explains that Mofan is likely already dead, and those who are alive must move forward. The others agree, saying there is no need for them to die as well, and that them reaching the safe zone is what Mofan would have wanted. Just then, Mofan emerges from the sewers, revealing the medication and explaining that the risk was definitely worth it. Zhang is healed instantly and thanks Mofan. Further back, the main group is surprised to see how well the scout team was doing, but are shocked to find their fallen teammate. They acknowledge the sacrifice the scout team is making and express optimism in the success of their journey. For a moment, we get a glimpse into just how bad the city is getting when we are shown a commander level monster. The scout team have almost reached the safe zone and relax a bit, since the closer they get, the safer their surroundings are. Mofan stares at the sacred spring and thinks about how close he is to completing the mission. They encounter another monster but are relieved to see that it is Instructor Yang. They explain how they are the scouting team and have a main group that follows them. Happy to see someone from the military, they ask that he escort them the rest of the way. He doesn't respond though, and explains that he had actually been looking for Mofan. Mofan can't understand why, and Yang tells him to give him the sacred spring. It is extremely important, he says, and the Black Curia can never be allowed to have it, but it will be safe with the military. However, Mofan is a bit skeptical and explains that it is safe with him as well. Mofan would like to give it to Officer Kong himself, and asks Yang to lead the way. However, Yang shows his true self when he reveals that he has killed several people on his way there, and Mofan is next if he doesn't give him the sacred spring. The story continues as the military tries its best to defend the border, and Officer Kong is informed of a patrol member that had managed to survive the attack in the woods. He has informed them that his team was not killed by a one-eyed wolf, but instead was killed by a pet archwolf. Kong cannot believe what he is hearing, since there is only one person in the entire army that owns one. In the safe zone, Mizao is told that things are becoming very chaotic now that several refugees have arrived. There are also rumors that a large group of Sky Magic High School students are headed there, but the route to the safe zone is becoming more dangerous as time goes on. Ningsu overhears them and decides to go help them, but Mizao says that she will not be able to accomplish much during a level 4 emergency. She says it's better than doing nothing, but he refuses to allow his only daughter to run into danger, and has someone watch Ningsu so she doesn't leave. Outside the safe zone, Yang compliments Mofan on his intelligence, since all the others he killed never figured out he was a traitor. Mofan warns everyone to stay back, but Yang explains that he has no interest in them and will even let him survive if he hands over the sacred spring. Mofan realizes that he must be a member of the Black Curia, and Yang would like to know when he became suspicious of him. Mofan thinks about how it had been when he learned that monsters would go berserk when given the violent spring liquid, and remembered how one of his archwolves had lost control during training. Mofan says that he managed to kill one of his wolves before, so he can do it again, and Yang calls upon the beasts that every Black Curia member has. The archwolf manages to pin Mofan down, and we see that Zhang freezes in fear. Luckily for him, he is saved by a team member, but has blood on him and turns to see that Yuhei has been struck. Zhang is then rescued by the rest of the team as they battle the other beasts. Zhang runs to Yuhei's side and tries to assure her that she will be okay. She is happy though, revealing that he was the first person she was able to protect. He can't believe she chose to protect him over herself, and she explains it's because he is very important to her, but those prove to be her final words. Zhang taunts Mofan, saying that all his friends are dying and there is nothing he can do. However, he focuses on his stars and manages to break free. Zhang is impressed, offering to teach him some things, and today's lesson is that he should never trust anyone. He demands the sacred spring again, threatening to kill his friends. Mofan brings it out to confirm that is what he actually wants, but instead of handing it to him, he begins to drink it instead. Everyone is stunned to see such reckless behavior, and Yang becomes enraged. Mofan explains that he can no longer get it by threatening his friends and will have to kill him for it. Their fight begins, and Mofan's development is obvious as he manages to hurt the Archwolf. However, he struggles as there are too many enemies, and Zhou says that they must slow them down so that Mofan has time to use his magic. Zhang reminds his monsters to ignore the others since Mofan is their target, but it's too late. His friends have stalled them just long enough for Mofan to use a powerful fire attack, that when combined with an attack from Zhou, burns the monster to death. The Archwolf recovers though, and Zhang explains that it is time to end the fight. Up above, we see that Mr. Shang knows that if you kill the master, then its pet becomes useless. He proclaims that he won't let his students be hurt anymore and hits Yang with a sneak attack while Mofan lands an attack on the wolf. Yang reveals that he had hit a beast just in case someone tried to attack him and explains that it is cursed, so Mr. Shang's abilities won't work on it. Just when it seems like he has the upper hand, Bai appears to land a deadly blow. The fight is over, but Yang is still in pain as he holds Yuhei's lifeless body in his arms. Mofan is completely drained, and Mr. Shang explains that the black beasts disappear when its master does. Zhang doesn't know what to do and can only say that he must become stronger. Yanzhou arrives and explains that they have been looking for Mofan, but see that they have come too late to help his friends. Tensions rise when one of the soldiers sees that they have killed another member of the military, but Mofan explains that he was actually a member of the Black Curia cult, and uses the black puddles of blood as evidence. They are still skeptical, but decide that it would be best to discuss it further inside the safe zone, while a few stay to investigate the scene. Another glimpse into the city shows that things are just as bad as ever. A group of soldiers discuss how it no longer matters how many troops the army sends since the enemies are endless, and their plan to kill the commander level monster won't work. They wonder how so many monsters managed to make it to the city without them passing through the border, and believe that it may have been space magic. That is impossible though, since not even the Black Curia would be able to learn it, and they decide to report back to Officer Kong. However, they are somehow spotted, and before they could even move, are completely wiped out in an instant by the commander level monster called the Pterolycus. Mr. Shang explains to the main group that they have arrived at the safe zone, and that its barrier is still up. However, he doesn't reveal that the majority of those that made it there have had to pay a great price. Mofan arrives to speak with Kong as he is told that an autopsy has shown that Yang was indeed a spy for the Black Curia. He is glad to see that he is still alive, but Mofan is upset that he has lost a few friends due to one of Kong's subordinates. To his credit, he takes the blame for not noticing the spy and asks how Mofan knew about Yang's real identity. He says that he didn't know and was just being cautious by not giving him the sacred spring when he finally revealed his betrayal. Kong says that he can rest easy now and asks that he trust him with the spring. Mofan explains that it actually has nothing to do with trust because he has actually drank it. This upsets Kong greatly since Bo City depends on it to gain one more level 2 mage every year. Mofan says he didn't have a choice and it was an emergency, but Kong just wants him to spit it out. Mofan begs that they focus on protecting the city and explains that it's better for the spring to be inside him than with the Black Curia. Officer Kong calms himself to explain that several squads were sent into the city and managed to kill thousands of one-eyed wolves, but for some reason more keep appearing. He figures that killing the Pterolycus will end the invasion, and Mofan can't imagine who would be capable of doing that. A soldier explains that Kong is a level 3 mage and their only hope of defeating it. Kong believes he has a 50% chance of killing it, but if they can't clear out the wolves, that drops down to only 10%. He then acknowledges Mofan's bright future and tells him to make sure he reaches his maximum potential. Kong then commands his troops to prepare for battle as they will now head to the city to defeat the Pterolycus. At the hospital, Zhang puts Yuhei to rest. He vows to validate her sacrifice by becoming so powerful that he will protect the city and rescue thousands of kind people just like her. In the city, Sing desperately looks for Mofan but can only cower in fear when he is attacked. In the safe zone, Ningsu finally finds Mofan and explains that she had always known that he was alive. Mizao hates that his daughter has run to a hoodlum like Mofan and believes that he must have abandoned his classmates to escape into the safe zone alone. Mofan has had enough. He explains how he and his friends have sacrificed far more than him, even though he has enough money and resources to do more. Ningsu comes to her father's defense, and as Mofan leaves, he can't help but think about his father. In the city, the attack on Mofan's father is stopped by Ling at the very last moment, and he explains that he is Mofan's father just as he passes out. We then see that Mofan asks to look through all the names of the refugees in the safe zone, but is disappointed to see that his father and sister are not on it. It is explained that a scout has determined that the monsters had been digging underground tunnels to bypass the city's barrier. They need to destroy these tunnels to keep more from entering, but have yet to find the entrances. Mofan remembers the first time he encountered a rat monster and how there had been a tunnel in that area. He explains that even though this current attack seems sudden, there have been signs of a pending invasion that go back over a year ago. Mofan thinks they should contact the monster hunters since they keep track of all the monsters they hunt, and they should be able to track the rat monsters back to the tunnel entrance. In their meeting, Mofan asks to see the hunter's logs to determine the frequency of Cyclops appearances. Captain Zuda explains that it would take a lot of time to create tunnels long enough to reach the city from outside the border, and Mofan says that it must have been going on way longer than they've imagined. The general figures that someone must have been plotting this for a while and asks which area has the most Cyclops activity. Mofan's intuition is proven correct when it is revealed that the most frequent Cyclops sightings have been in the area around his sister's school. The general declares that the military and hunters will form a special team so that they can find the tunnel entrance. Outside, Mofan searches the crowd in the hopes of finding his family and is thrilled to finally see his father. He explains that he had been rescued by a girl, and a couple hunters reveal that they had found his father unconscious along with Lin, but she is now dead as she sacrificed her life to save him. Mofan can't believe she managed to keep her promise, and Sing begins to cry when he thinks about how dangerous it is in the area Zenzaya is in. The scout team are relieved to finally be able to relax when they notice that the monster hunters are preparing to leave the safe zone. They can't believe they would do that, but are even more shocked when they see Mofan requesting to go along. His classmates beg him to stay since he worked so hard to get there, and his father arrives to warn that his sister might already be gone. However, Mofan says that she might still be alive and waiting for him somewhere. He has never disappointed her before, and that is good enough of a reason for him to go. The general explains that Mofan has proven himself and will allow him to go, but they will not be able to help find his sister since they have an important mission. Mofan says that it's fine and just wants to stay with them on the way there. In the city, we see the group that Zenzaya hides with. Several of them have been separated from family, and one man insists that no one will come to rescue them. He believes that the monsters will soon find them, and they will have a better chance to survive if they escape the city. However, the rest believe that reaching the barrier this late into a level 4 catastrophe is impossible. One of the men reveals that he is an experienced pipeline worker, and that he can lead them outside the city using the sewer system. The group believe to have now found the perfect solution, but it is pointed out that there is a girl in a wheelchair among them, and she can't travel well. The tunnels are too narrow for a wheelchair to pass through, and they are all ruthless, claiming that it is her problem, not theirs. The other young girl can't believe they could be so cruel and offers to carry Zenzaya. However, she declines her offer and asks that she go on with the others so that she doesn't end up dead. Zenzaya ignores the girl's pleas to let her help. She only asks that she find her brother Mofan to deliver her bracelet to him and relay a message explaining her gratitude for his love. The young girl says she will do it and will ask that Mofan come back to save her, but Zenzaya declines that as well, requesting that the girl tell Mofan she had died and that he needs to continue on living his life. The girl leaves and Zenzaya searches some boxes to find a weapon she can use. The commander explains that their mission will be to find the tunnel entrance and destroy it at all costs. They have kept the group small to avoid attracting attention, but they are all experienced fighters. Zuda says not to worry, in the worst case they will all die together defending the city, and even if he were to die, he would be able to block half the entrance with his body. Mofan stares at the tattered city. He is confident that Zenzaya is still alive and only asks that she wait for him. The story continues as we see that Mofan's group must continue their journey on foot since the route to the destination is blocked. One of their members scouts ahead and demonstrates his powerfully efficient use of his wind attack. Their leader points out how experience in combat will be key in surviving their journey. Officer Chang would then use mid-tier magic, and Zuda explains just how amazing it is. Chang managed to freeze the monsters, keeping them from making any noise that would attract others, and then crushed them almost simultaneously. Mofan remarks how he would like to become that strong, but feels like something is obstructing him. Zuda says that mages tend to hit a plateau when reaching the next level, and that casting spells will take longer. However, Mofan thinks about how he can just skip the incantation since he has the book that Miss Tang gave him. They hear cries for help and must be reminded by Chang that they are on an important mission and are not there to save anyone. Mofan is the only one there looking for his sister, but the rest are ordered to ignore everyone. Their scout returns to say that they can proceed, but stop when someone dies in front of them. It seems like he had been trying to escape through the sewer system, but Zuda points out that the sewer is serving as a nest for the Cyclops, and it is suicide to go in them. As they leave, Mofan sees the bracelet that he had gifted Ningsu on a lifeless body, and remembers when they picked it together. He realizes that it's not Ningsu, but definitely is her bracelet. He mentions his clue to one of their members, and she explains that the dead man was wearing a uniform from the supermarket in a nearby mall. Officer Chang explains that the sewers have been checked, and Ningsu was not there, so she may still be at the supermarket. That is all the help they could offer though, as their mission must continue, so they part ways. The group discuss how she must have been abandoned due to her disability. They hope that she doesn't give up because of it, and fights long enough for Mofan to find her. In the supermarket, Ningsu sees that she is surrounded and has limited options. A monster goes in for an attack, but we see that she managed to hide in time. Elsewhere, two members of the Black Curia reveal that they are there because it seems like a small military group is headed toward the tunnel entrances. They are to kill them, but decide to wait since the area they are headed towards is extremely dangerous, and will let their numbers decrease before finishing them off. They lament how they were not able to secure the sacred spring though, as it would have made their goal a lot easier. They see Mofan in the distance, and one of them explains that he doesn't need help killing him. Mofan barely escapes a monster's attack and gets to safety. The Black Curia member is surprised to see that Mofan doesn't remember him, but explains that he can hardly recognize himself as he reveals his disfigured face. It's Yuang, and he blames Mofan for everything, explaining that the Mu family had always treated him like a dog, and when he was close to earning the right to get the sacred spring, Mofan ruined it. After failing his mission, the Black Curia punished him. Even though his face is unrecognizable, Yuang says that he will never forget Mofan's face. He vows to get revenge, but Mofan explains that he couldn't even beat him before. Yuang reveals that Mofan isn't the only one with hidden abilities, and summons several black beasts. Mofan has no time to waste, so he runs, and Yuang explains that his two talents are nothing against his monsters. However, he gets a call from his partner that explains the higher-ups want them to go to the school since the military group has arrived there. He doesn't want to leave, but is reminded that the Black Curia will scar him again if they find out he had abandoned his duties. He then leaves his pets behind and expresses disappointment that he won't be able to witness Mofan's death. Mofan manages to evade the attack momentarily and realizes he must use mid-tier magic if he wants to defeat the monsters. He realizes that he has escaped into a security room and sees the dire situation his sister is in. Frustration sets in as Mofan knows that he will be shredded to pieces if he leaves that room, but must save Zenzaya. He thinks about how Cyclops have poor eyesight and rely on heat detection. Zenzaya managed to hide in a refrigerator and is proof that she hasn't given up, which motivates him even more. Zenzaya, however, can't continue to stay inside, so she tries to maneuver her way out of the store. Mofan refuses to just watch his sister die and tells himself that he must break through his limitations. In that moment, he notices that his pendant has begun to glow and wonders if it had absorbed the energy of the sacred spring. He concentrates for a moment and sees that his stardust has finally become star clouds, allowing him. A bit later, Shaya assures Mu that it's a good idea, since she has heard rumors that Mofan single-handedly took down the warrior-level monster. Mu's family has a shortage of talented individuals right now, and Mofan could be a valuable addition if they can convince him. The next day, some movers finish their job and are told to leave. They think that Mofan must be a mover as well and don't believe when he says he lives there. Shaya doesn't help clear anything up, but instead cheers on the fight. However, Mu shows up and shocks the movers with the truth. After they leave, Shaya apologizes for instigating, and Mu explains that Mofan should be careful as those two are from noble families. They are both very strong and might try to do something to him in the future, but Mofan isn't concerned. Later, Mofan spends some time with Zenzaya and they catch up on the things they have been doing. He says that one day he will make enough money to buy her a great surprise, but she explains that him visiting her is better than any gift. Zenzaya then mentions how her history teacher taught her that the people of Bow City have always been unique. Going back centuries, those who first lived there were the sacred spring's guardians. Mofan believes that must have something to do with why the Black Curia wanted to destroy the city so badly. Zendaya explains that if he wants to find the truth, then he must first find the ancient tomb. However, the spirits inside are very malicious, which is why no one has dared to search for it. Mofan is unfamiliar with this place, and Zendaya reveals that it is the most famous resting place of the dead, the place called Guda's tomb. The story continues as Miss Tang speaks with the judge of the Justice Department for mages. He explains that there is a matter that she needs to tend to since she is the only person that he can trust with the job. The situation is in chaos, so she must go immediately and drop all her other tasks. She explains that the issue with the Violent Spring hasn't been resolved, but the judge explains that the Black Curia is always on the move, and that they can't spend time chasing them forever. He wants to try to act before they do, and that is why he is sending her to the 3 pools. After she secures that mission, he asks that she keep an eye on Mofan since he is protecting the sacred spring, and the dangerous person named Salong is desperately searching for it. If all goes well, they can capture Salong when they come after Mofan and extract information about the Black Curia. Miss Tang calls Mofan to confirm that he still has the sacred spring, but is shocked to hear that he had to drink it in the midst of chaos. She asks if he has seen any Black Curia members since leaving Bo City, but he hasn't. Afterwards, Miss Tang still can't help but worry about him, and she gets into contact with the Hunters Club. Zendaya would then continue on explaining how the Gouda tomb has a long history. Compared to demons, the dead spirits of the tomb are significantly more dreadful and fearsome. After several people had lost their lives attempting to explore it, the government announced that the tomb would become forbidden land and no one is allowed to enter. However, it has close ties to the sacred spring, and they believe that the tomb might be the only clue that leads to the truth of the disaster behind Bo City. Zendaya then worries that Mofan won't have time to visit her next semester, but he explains that he shouldn't be that busy and will make time to visit. Later, Mofan trains and reveals that he has managed to level his fire and magic significantly, although probably not enough to take down a warrior level monster. He is bored of staying home all day training though, and realizes that real life combat is the best way to level anyway, so he heads to his Hunters Club. Business is slow though, and he just ends up complaining. After some time, Bao arrives with a new job, but he reveals that it is a bit odd. The client explains that they are unfortunately too busy to do the job themselves and requests that they protect someone for them. It seems like a simple bodyguard job, but Bao reveals that the person they have been asked to protect is Mofan. The client has already paid a large sum of money, so it is definitely not a prank, which means Mofan might be in some kind of danger. Bao wants to call in another hunter for the job, but Mofan says that he is a hunter as well, and can protect himself. More importantly though, he just wants all the money. Mofan explains that he spends all his time at home or in school anyway, and should be fine. However, after he leaves, Bao tells Ling Ling to watch his every move. That night, Mofan wonders if the Black Curia are after him, and remembers how they had always been good at hiding amongst normal people, like Yuang. He then attempts to figure out who the client is. Officer Kong is his first thought, but reveals that he hasn't heard from him since leaving Bo City. His thought is interrupted though when he is attacked by someone from the shadows. He manages to deflect the fire attack, but the wind attack that follows forces him to use his beast boots. His attacker thinks he might be trying to run, but Mofan explains that he has just had enough of his boring performance. Mofan's attack is ferocious and follows it up with a strike to the ground that buries his opponent. He calls out for his attacker's accomplices and they beg for mercy since they go to the same school. Mofan is shocked since he believed that they had been part of the Black Curia coming after him. They explained that Jaya was the one who told them to do it, and it was because he felt that Mofan had disrespected Mu. Mofan warns that they should be more careful since he almost killed Jaya, and that they better rush him to the hospital. Mofan then wonders if he is being too paranoid, but decides that it is better to be safe. He calls Ling Ling to ask that Bao watch over his father, and she watch over his sister. Ling Ling reminds him that the job is to protect him, but Mofan explains that if anything were to happen to his family, then he would be as good as dead. He leaves them with no other option, so they agree to do it. Later, Mofan thinks about how he had come to this new city in the hopes of leaving his past behind, but the fight earlier reminded him that it's impossible for him to forget the hatred he has for the Black Curia. He then proudly proclaims that the sacred spring is with him, and if they want it, they are going to have to come take it. On the first day the school reopens, Minun explains that everyone is talking about how he dominated Jaya, and it makes sense why everyone has started calling him a devil. He is called to meet the dean, who scolds him for nearly killing a student. He explains that it was self-defense, but they still think he went too far. Mofan's violent behavior makes the dean wonder if Mofan is in some kind of danger, but lets him go without answering. Before leaving though, Mofan requests for the permission to train in the 3-step tower as soon as possible. The dean won't deny him since Mofan had earned that right, but points out that it surely means Mofan has urgent matters that he is trying to take care of. Again, Mofan says nothing, but the dean agrees to arrange it for him. The dean's assistant reveals to us that they actually already know everything and recommends hiding Mofan from the Black Curia. The dean explains that the Justice Department has been looking for the Black Curia for over a year with no results. However, the Curia seem to have come out in search of something Mofan has. That is why the Justice Department has decided to use Mofan as bait. That means Mofan is in grave danger, but the dean says he believes in Mofan's strength, and the school will help the best it can from the shadows. Furthermore, Mofan is going to go train at the tower, which means he must have already made his decision to go after the Black Curia. At the hospital, Jaya begs for his life as he explains that his allegiance to the group was not found out. He says that the best time to take Mofan down will be at the main campus assessment, and promises to kill him once he recovers. The man reveals himself to be Yuang. He explains that he had promised to make Mofan his slave and that he is a man of his word. Days later, the dean explains that the 3-step tower is a very special magical building that can gather natural elemental energy from the earth. Its location and structure allow it to accumulate energy from thousands of kilometers away. One of the escorts explains that Mofan is the first freshman that has been allowed to train in there, and that he is very jealous. Their walk inside the building seems endless, and Mofan can't help but notice the much larger space inside compared to the building appearance from the outside. It is explained that the Space Element Department has the idea that 1 step will take you 1,000 miles, 2 steps will take you 10,000, and 3 steps will take you to boundless lengths. Thus, the 3-step tower is also known as the Tower of Infinity. It might not look like much from the outside, but on the inside, it is extremely difficult for one to reach its end. The escort explains that each layer will have different level of benefits, and sends Mofan on his way. As he ascends, he realizes that his magic energy is depleting, which is odd considering he hasn't used any magic. Outside, it is revealed that the escort had withheld information from Mofan out of jealousy. He assumes Mofan will figure out eventually though that for each layer he goes up, the speed of mana consumption greatly increases. The other person explains that he should have warned Mofan not to push to the 2nd layer, since almost all mid-tier mages would be completely depleted of magical energy halfway, rendering them unconscious. The escort says that even after waiting for years, he has never gotten the chance to enter even once, so Mofan doesn't deserve any help from him. Mofan barely manages to reach the 1st layer, but finds that development there is 20 times faster than outside. Days pass as Mofan makes a difficult trip up to the 2nd layer. Once there, he can instantly tell that the difference in layers is extreme. Both his fire and lightning talents have reached the 2nd level of mid-tier magic in such a short time. The only problem is that the consumption of energy has greatly increased as well. He only has 1 day left though and decides to make a push for the 3rd layer. These steps are several times harder than the others, causing him to lose vision and almost give up. However, he perseveres and finds that it was all worth it when his development speed increases over 200 times what it normally is. He gives his abilities a try and hopes to one day come back to go to a higher layer. Moments later, he leaves the tower and leaves the person who escorted him in shock when he explains that he reached the 3rd layer. He arrives home to see Mu practicing with the leveling bracelet, and she notices how quickly Mofan is developing. She assumes it's because he is preparing for the main assessment. He actually had forgotten about the assessment altogether. She says that he shouldn't, since if he misses the opportunity to get into the main campus this time around, he will be stuck in the novice campus for another 3 years. He agrees with her, but can't help but being concerned about the Black Curia's ill intentions. Days later, the dean explains that this year's main campus assessment will be a bit different. Examinees will need to catch a dark shadow beast that escaped from the military, and it must be caught alive. In addition, he reveals that the highest performers each receive an opportunity to practice in the 3-step tower, and everyone is in disbelief. Later, Shai would like to know if Mofan knows anything about the dark shadow beast. Luckily, his old friend Zhang has lots of knowledge of the military and explained to him that the shadow beasts like to eat beef. Furthermore, this is shedding season for them, and the fur that comes off their tails slowly turns into dust. Shia is impressed and explains that students are allowed to form teams for this assessment. She tries to use compliments in combination with a bit of charm to convince Mofan to join her team, but fails miserably. However, Mofan reveals that the reason he didn't join is because the Black Curia are unpredictable and he doesn't want to put anyone in danger. Mofan will later use his status as a hunter to get reports of any cases regarding large quantities of beef being stolen. The information leads to an area where he finds some of its fur, but it has nearly disintegrated, which means that it left it a few days ago. He receives a call from his informant about another case of missing beef, but we are shown that it is actually a trap set by a member of the Black Curia. She has done exactly what he asked, but the man demonstrates the absolute cruelty of the Black Curia when he feeds her to his beast. Later, we see that an old acquaintance of Mofan's named Zhao Ting is mistaken for him when the Black Curia go to capture him. He fights valiantly with his lightning magic but loses and is taken to the priest by one of the Black Curia. The others are left to dispose of the girl he was with named Lulu. She's about to be torn apart by one of the dark beasts, but Mofan arrives just in time to save her. The Black Curia member is pretty confident though, since normal mid-tier magic isn't even enough to defeat one dark beast, but Mofan unleashes his new level 2 lightning attack that does massive damage to the surrounding area. He is still severely outnumbered, but Lulu gets to witness as Mofan demonstrates just how unique and exceptional his lightning has become. In combination with his other abilities, he takes care of the group and exclaims that he will show no mercy to the despicable Black Curia. Mofan takes Lulu to safety when she reveals that Zhao Ting has been captured. We then see that Yu Wang promises to give special treatment to Zhao Ting since he remembers him from Bo City. Zhao Ting is confident that Mofan will come rescue him very soon and asks if Yu Wang is afraid since a monster like him will suffer a horrible death. Yu Wang hates being called that word and explains that it won't be long before Zhao Ting becomes a monster more hideous than him and will begin to regret his very existence. A week later, Shia is upset to see that Mofan hasn't been coming home at night, but still thinks he can just barge in and eat all their food. Mu doesn't mind though, so Mofan just asks about their progress with finding the Shadow Beast. Mu explains that finding the beast is only the first step, since they will have to bring it to the taming cage to complete the task, meaning that the beast can be stolen between students. Shia can't believe students would do that, but realizes that Mofan is actually the devil that stole the entire school's resources. Mofan realizes that the test isn't so much about capturing a beast as it is about a battle between students. Mofan then visits Lulu, who wants to go search for Zhao Ting, but Mofan says she needs to rest and he has been searching non-stop. She blames herself for not stopping Zhao Ting and explains that they were there because they received tips from a student about the Shadow Beast being there. Mofan realizes that someone must have been giving out fake clues and wonders if the Black Curia have already infiltrated their school. That night, she remembers the fake student's name to be Fu and is startled when she sees a dark beast behind her. Just when Lulu thinks she has found a safe hiding spot, another monster appears. The beast struggles with itself for a moment though and turns to fight the Curia's beasts. After its victory, it approaches Lulu to wipe away her tears. Yu Wang appears and is surprised to see that the monster has decided not to do its job. Elsewhere, Mofan finally is able to get a hold of Miss Tang. She warns that the Black Curia are coming after him, and he explains that he has managed to slaughter several dark beasts already. However, she explains that they aren't actually magical beasts, they are actually living humans, cursed souls crushed under the Black Curia's most terrifying ability. People that fall into their hands are transformed into beasts. Mofan realizes that if they have turned Zhao Ting into one of them, then they will know where Lulu lives. Miss Tang doesn't know her, so Mofan explains that Lulu is Zhao Ting's girlfriend and the only person left that was close to him. We then watch as Yu Wang explains that a beast being able to control itself is truly exceptional, since it requires a soul that is filled with anger and resentment. However, he explains that he should give up hopes of returning to normal, as his emotions will begin to disappear and no one can stop the transformation. Yu Wang commands him to kill her again, but this time warns that he will kill her instead if Zhao Ting doesn't. The difference is he will not allow a beautiful girl like her to die happily. Unable to overpower Yu Wang's control, Zhao Ting strikes Lulu, and Yu Wang thinks about how perfect a message this is to send to Mofan. As Lulu's life begins to fade away, she tries to comfort Zhao Ting as she can see the pain in his eyes. She explains that everything will be okay and she doesn't blame him for anything. Those prove to be her last words and Zhao Ting can only scream in pain. Mofan arrives just then and Zhao Ting gives him a clue with someone's name on it. He begs that Mofan end his life, but Mofan refuses and says that he will take him to the Magic Association in case someone there can cure him. However, Mofan remembers that Miss Tang told him that the only one that would have a chance at saving him is the healing goddess, but she was killed by the Black Curia. Mofan decides to grant Zhao Ting's final wish and ends his suffering. The name on the clue belongs to the Blue Deacon, and Miss Tang explains that they can use him to find Salang. It's clear to Mofan that the Black Curia member in charge of this operation is hiding amongst the students at Mingzhu Academy. He tells Miss Tang to use the Blue Deacon to find Salang, but to leave the person at Mingzhu Academy to him. Afterwards, Mofan calls his friend in the military, who explains that they agreed to the academy using the beast in the assessment because it isn't classified as dangerous, and Mofan asks that he locate it for him. Later, Mu and Shia wonder why Mofan has revealed to everyone that he has captured the Shadow Beast, instead of sneaking it into the cage in secret. Now everyone knows and has assembled near the cage to steal it away from him. Everyone is surprised to see that the devil Mofan has arrived and was telling the truth about the Shadow Beast. Mofan summons his archwolf, and Mu explains that she had felt the same energy from Mofan when he escaped her forest prison, and begins to think that he has the shadow talent as well. Mofan explains to everyone that the Shadow Beast has swallowed a bottle of spring water. He says he doesn't care about the beast and just wants his bottle back. Nearby, Yuang realizes that Mofan has seen through their plan and is attempting to have everyone fight. However, he says that they can easily hide amongst the students and explains that whatever he is planning is irrelevant. All he cares about is getting the sacred spring and killing Mofan. Back on the ground, Mofan explains to Fang that he wants to apologize for embarrassing him before and gives him the Shadow Beast. Fang knows it's not sincere and proves to be correct when everyone attacks him for the beast. These are some of the most powerful students in the entire school, and they give their all for the chance at getting into the 3-step tower. We can see that several elements are used at a very high level, causing absolute chaos. The instructors watch as their students behave recklessly, going all out to the point that they will all end up killing each other. The Dean then reveals that it is time to activate the Night Conqueror formation that will suppress all their magic powers. One of the instructors warns that it would leave them vulnerable if the Black Curia decide to strike. He is willing to take the risk and makes his command again. The sky is covered in darkness and the effects of the formation are immediately felt as the students can't use their magic. Yuang explains that the academy must not know that they are there since they wouldn't have trapped their helpless students inside with them. And Fu arrives to explain that the spell was set beforehand in case the students went on a rampage like they are. It is explained that Mofan has been weakened like everyone else, but the dark beasts of the Curia are cursed and have not been affected at all. This is the perfect time to kill Mofan that Yuang has been waiting for. The story continues as Mofan thinks about how his plan is going better than expected. The Black Curia don't know that he has awakened the shadow talent and will probably think that his magic power has been suppressed. They will definitely come out of hiding to attack him, but also to capture the Shadow Beast since they think it has swallowed the sacred spring. Elsewhere, Fang discusses with another student their inability to use magic at the moment and how difficult the darkness will make it to find the Shadow Beast. However, she reveals that she managed to leave a magic seal on the beast earlier and that she will be able to track it down. Nearby, Song is upset that Mofan has purposely caused so much confusion and promises to make him pay. He notices a horrible stench to find that dark beasts have appeared. In the forest, Yuang has decided to deploy his subordinate named Li to find the Shadow Beast and get rid of Mofan. Backed by Fang, we see that his group has unintentionally provoked the dark beasts that were just trying to find the Shadow Beast. Their magic is too suppressed to be useful, but luckily for them, one member of the group has enough power to buy them some time to run away. They just happen to miss Mofan, who is nearby as he is encountered by a group of dark beasts. He takes care of them, and we see that the girl from Fang's group senses the power of a fire magic spell that is several times stronger than hers. They go back to find the dead beasts, and she explains that they had been killed by fire different than hers, a spirit fire. She wants to warn the other students about the appearance of the beasts, but they decide that it's more important to find the Shadow Beast so that the assessment can end. Later, Lee nearly catches the Shadow Beast but is seen by some students that recognize him as a classmate. He asks to join him just as Mofan arrives. The guy is surprised to see that he can use shadow magic, and the girl refers to him as Devil when she tells him to stay away. Mofan reveals Lee's bad intentions and the two begin to fight. Lee catches him off guard when he uses ice magic and captures Mofan. However, he manages to summon his archwolf and the two make quick work of their enemies. Afterwards, Mofan relies on his pendant to track down the Shadow Beast, but is interrupted by Song and his buddy who both want to teach him a lesson. Mofan warns them that this is not the time to be messing with him just as Fu arrives. Fu explains that he would like to team up with Song and his friend. He says that he is not interested in capturing the Shadow Beast and only wants what's in its stomach. Mofan says that only members of the Black Curia would be more interested in the spring water, which makes it clear that Fu is one of them. However, Fu claims that Mofan is just trying to break up their alliance and Song believes him. Song manages to trap Mofan, but he easily escapes into a nearby building. Fu says that they should just search for the Shadow Beast, since Mofan is a goner if he really went into that building. Inside, Mofan sees that he caged himself inside the Shadow Beast's taming cage and realizes that it must suppress shadow magic. Just then, Yuang emerges from the shadows to explain that he has already captured the Shadow Beast and will now make Mofan beg for his life. Mofan is shocked to see that Yuang was the one behind everything, but as usual, taunts him about his disfigured face. Yuang can't take it and summons a cursed beast. He explains that they are humans that have been turned into monsters and that the more they are tormented, the stronger they become. This was his first ever cursed beast. His second was Zhao Ting, and claims his third will be Mofan. He reveals that he has been with the Black Curia since he was 7, and to prove his loyalty, turned his own father into this cursed beast. Mid-fight, the deacon calls to tell him that he must retreat. Yuang says that they already have the Shadow Beast, and his men just need some more time to extract the sacred spring from its stomach. The deacon explains that he is being chased by someone, and gives Yuang 10 minutes to finish up. Mofan overhears the conversation though, and can't help but laugh as he thinks about how the sacred spring had actually been absorbed by his pendant long ago. Mofan makes use of his new shield for the first time just as he receives a call from Miss Tang. She explains that they have found the Blue Deacon and learned that he is in charge of the operation to retrieve the sacred spring. Members of the Justice Department are on their way to arrest him, but they need Mofan to buy them some time. He wonders why the Black Curia are so desperate to take the sacred spring, but most focus as the cursed beast proves to be a difficult opponent. His attacks hardly do any damage as the beast seems to be nearly as strong as a warrior level monster. Elsewhere, we see that a member of the Justice Department receives a signal revealing the Deacon's location. Back at the cage, Fu arrives to reveal that the Shadow Beast only had 1 drop of sacred spring inside his stomach. Yuang realizes that he has been fooled and now wants Mofan dead more than ever. As Mofan's pendant glows, Yuang realizes that the sacred spring is inside it and commands his beast to retrieve it. However, the Deacon reveals that he has run out of time and will just have to face the consequences for them failing the mission. Yuang wants to continue fighting though, and is shocked to see that Mofan also has the Shadow talent. It is explained to him that the Conqueror spell is disappearing, and we see that the students can see Mofan in the cage now that the maze has disappeared. Yuang takes his 1 drop of sacred spring and leaves his 2 subordinates to kill Mofan. Mofan uses his shadow spikes to finally defeat the cursed beast, and Fu realizes that it's best they attack now since he is exhausted. Mofan asks why they would want to be part of the Black Curia, but they just want to fight. Mu and Shia arrive to question what their classmates are doing, but Mofan explains that they are actually traitors. His opponents can't believe that their fire doesn't hurt him, and Mofan reveals that it's because his fire is spirit fire. He then unleashes a powerful attack that shakes the earth and ends the fight. Elsewhere, Yuang attempts to report to the Blue Deacon but is dejected when he gets no response. Back at the school, Miss Tang explains that the Deacon has been captured and they will now be able to uncover the Black Curia members hidden in the city. She thanks Mofan for his work, but he only wants to give credit to Zhao Ting. Miss Tang explains that although Yuang got away, he has failed the Black Curia and will have nowhere to hide. The students find their classmates burned in the cage and see that the devil Mofan must be the one at fault. Ting Ting arrives to heal him, but he explains that his wounds are cursed and cannot be healed. However, she says that she is not a beginner tier mage anymore, healing him and reminding Mofan of how he saved her before. Some of the students want Mofan to pay for killing their classmates, but are interrupted when the well-respected Nighthawk of the Justice Department arrives. He credits Mofan with defeating several Black Curia monsters and clears his name. Later, Shia can't stand how lazy Mofan has been since the assessment, but he explains that he is just recovering. She changes tone though, since she has become interested in the mysterious rumors that are always surrounding him, but he doesn't answer any of her questions. She then asks what talent he has actually awakened, since he seems to have used a few, and Mu can't help but wonder the same. However, again, Mofan doesn't answer and lets them just make their own assumptions. Later, Mofan thanks Ling Ling and Bao for protecting his family. He explains that the Black Curia had killed the Shadow Beast, but Song and his buddy turned in its corpse to win the award. Bao mentions that there are rumors going around that there was also a large-scale incident in the city Zenzaya lives in, but there isn't much information on it. Mofan then asks if anyone had approached Zenzaya at all, and must clarify that he is talking about the Black Curia, not boys at her school. Ling Ling reveals that she did notice that there had been someone protecting her from the shadows, and Mofan demands to know who it is. Ling Ling wonders if it might be someone from her biological family. Mofan's father and Zenzaya's mother had been a couple when the two of them were young, but one day her mother suddenly left without a word, leaving Zenzaya behind. He asks Ling Ling to not say anything to his sisters so she doesn't get upset. Later, Manyan explains to Mofan that the dean has signed them up to be exchange students at the Yandu Academy. He explains that it is actually a showdown that is done every year by the schools with the most powerful students. They meet with the dean, who explains that they were chosen because of their outstanding performance in recent conflicts, and offers an award for their compliance. It's mind-calming magic equipment that can even protect against spirit magic, like the one Che had used before. On his way to Yondu Academy, Mofan thinks about how he had asked the dean if the school had already known that the Black Curia wanted to capture him. The dean explains that the Black Curia has evaded the Justice Department for many years, and issues involving them are complicated. That is the reason the dean can never answer his question. The exchange students finally arrive at Yondu Academy and are informed that the sparring event will take place the very next day. It seems kind of soon, but it is explained that there is much to be done in a short amount of time. Inside, Mr. Liu finds some students training and reveals that the exchange students have arrived. They wonder if they will receive a reward for beating them, but another student arrives named Zhang He, who mocks them for thinking weaklings like themselves could defeat anyone. Mr. Liu would like to know where the trio's captain is, but they reveal that she won't need to be bothered with such a small matter. Later, Mofan makes use of his downtime by developing his summoning talent. He sees that his pendant is becoming agitated. When he takes a look inside, he finds the spirit essence of all the monsters Mofan had defeated, and his pendant had been collecting. He marvels at how amazing his pendant is, since it functions as both a development booster and a spirit vessel. Mofan realizes that he can make a lot of money if he is able to take them out, but is disappointed when the one he tries to take gets swallowed up. He meets with the professor to ask about what ghost artifacts are capable of, aside from collecting spirit essence. The information isn't easily found, but he explains that there is a rumor that there is a type of ghost artifact that is able to condense weak spirits into a more valuable, refined spirit. Mofan is thrilled to hear that, since low-level essence are already worth a lot, and can't imagine how much refined spirits are worth. The next day, everyone prepares for the sparring event, and the students of Yondu Academy do some taunting. Mr. Liu shows his bias when he agrees with them, but notices a student is missing. The professor notices it's Mofan and remembers the rest of their conversation. He would go on to explain that these days, soul essences are used to create magic items, but before that, mages would use them to level up one of their 7 stardust. He explains that it would be foolish to do now, since it takes an entire soul essence to level up just 1 stardust, and it would make far more sense to just sell it for millions of yuan. Leveling up stardust results in more powerful abilities, so Mofan begins to consider it. He finally arrives at the event and is ready to beat up the trash talkers. Mu explains that the event will be 2 rounds of 4 vs 4 combat. Technically there will be no winner or loser, but the stronger class will be evident. The first 2 groups are chosen and the battle begins. Song smartly disrupts their spellcasting but is cancelled out by the other earth user. The massive force produced by 2 wind users is clear when their attacks thrust everyone to the ground. Mingzu's students remark how everyone is definitely going all out, but Mu points out that the Yondu students are stronger in terms of individual abilities, and the scoreboard agrees. Later, Ming explains that the combination of their next group is bad since they have 2 summoners, and he wants to replace Mofan. However, Zen decides that he would rather be replaced, and their instructor allows it. Ming wants to make it clear that he is the leader and doesn't want Mofan to ruin their chances of winning, but Mofan just points out how much of an arrogant fool he is. Mofan then jokingly asks that Mu protect him since he is useless without magic items, but she explains that he needs to fight seriously. Everyone knows that Mofan is a summoner and lightning user, but want to know how powerful his summoned beast is. He explains that it is quite a bit far from warrior level. They then ask about his contracted beast, and he reveals that he hasn't found a suitable one yet, which means his summoning talent isn't mid-tier. The others are disappointed to realize that this means they are at a disadvantage. Mr. Liu picks his next group as they hear someone ask to participate. Everyone is shocked to see that the person is their team leader, Ning-Su. She is well known for having been born with a spirit grade ice element, and the students begin to think they will lose. Ting-Ting is confident that Mofan's innate dual elements will give them a chance, but Song points out just how insanely strong Ning-Su is. Mofan is surprised to see the girl he calls his old waifu, and Mu can't believe her immense presence. She points out how Ning-Su's power emanates from her body, dropping the temperature around her constantly. Mofan says he will just subdue her with his good looks, but Mu asks that he stop joking since defeating her will take their combined strength. Ning-Su covers the entire area with ice in an instant. Their instructor explains that it is realm magic, and that each element has its own version, but only powerful mages can use it. The students notice that her ice realm is affecting all their abilities, just as Mofan saves them by absorbing a lightning attack. He counters with lightning of his own and demonstrates just how much more powerful his talent is. Their opponent summons his warrior level beast and their attempts to stop it fail. However, the girls work together and manage to buy Ming enough time to get away, only to be struck down. Mofan arrives with his wolf and tells the others to distract their beasts so that he can fight Ning-Su one-on-one. However, Ningsu surprises everyone with an instant magic release, leaving Mofan no time to dodge and capturing him. Things are looking really bad, so the Mingzu instructor begins to surrender, but is stopped by the nervous-looking Manyan. He wants him to wait as he can sense the presence of a fire element, and an extremely powerful one at that. The Yondu students believe that it's already over though, and ask that they take it easy on the weakling Mofan. Mofan greets his old friend, but she sternly demands that he drop the act and reveal his true strength. Everyone is confused by that, and Ming points out that no matter how strong Mofan's lightning is, it won't have any effect on her ice. Just then, Mofan releases a burst of flames that instantly destroy the chains. His second burst is even more powerful and destroys part of the arena. Everyone becomes even more confused as they had thought that Mofan was just a summoner and lightning mage, but it's obvious to everyone now that he actually has 3 elements. The story continues after Ningsu has asked Mofan to show his true strength, and is glad to see he is now serious. Mofan, being the gentleman that he is, explains that he never turns down a woman's requests. The battle is fierce, and the instructors of both schools must protect their students from the overflow of destructive power. Ningsu uses her second talent, prompting her classmates to claim that Mofan is a goner. Mofan's friends worry that he'll be torn apart, but he manages to dissipate her spirit-grade wind prison. Happy to see that he has found a worthy opponent, Mofan unleashes a powerful lightning attack that Ningsu fails to stop. He avoids hitting her though, as they're only sparring, and Ningsu surrenders. Students of both schools are in disbelief of Mofan's 3 elements, but Zheng He explains that the loss is not a big deal. The more important event is next. Zheng He believes that his beast is much more powerful than Mofan's wolf, and has come up with a plan to prove it. Elsewhere, Mr. Q is upset that a man named Nian plans to exploit a student. The World Magic Association disapproved the usage of a dreadful new magic, but Nian doesn't agree. In the past, the magic elements that could be awakened were few and weak, but with advances in technology, mages are able to push the boundaries. The principal of Yondu Academy named Songhei explains that this can wait, since he will not let any student be in danger while they're in his school. The next day, Songhei explains that he would like to have the students practice their survival skills, so a practical will take place outside the safe zone without any protective measures. They will have to go to Jinlin City, a place that no one has heard of since it had been deleted from the map 15 years ago. It had been overrun by monsters, and their mission for the practical is to collect data that will determine if the city can be rebuilt. The mission is dangerous as they will have to fight the monsters themselves, and the only advice Professor Gu can give is to get quality defensive magical equipment. Later, Mofan explains to Mu how his boy Wolfie had been upset after not being able to defeat the other beast, so he has decided to get some supplies that will help him get to the warrior level. That night, Mofan gives the beast refinement blood that he won during the summoners competition, along with some other items, to his archwolf. Mofan explains that Wolfie has proven his loyalty and earned Mofan's trust. Mofan then uses the very expensive items to begin the process. Midway through, Mofan must provide his archwolf with magic energy for the evolution to work. He can feel it working, and Professor Gu arrives to see that the evolution was a success. He is in disbelief since the archwolf is a low-level beast with a very small chance to evolve. However, Mofan was somehow able to evolve it into the warrior-level Swift Star Wolf. Elsewhere, a hunter wonders why they must be responsible for the mess that the military created. He explains that the experiments are immoral since failure means that a mage will die. The Hunter King arrives to reveal that the experimental subject this time is an advanced mage with 3 elements. He explains that this will mean the mage's devil transformation will be the most terrifying one yet. Days later, the students embark on their journey beyond the safe zone. Mu explains that the area has at least 10 demon tribes and has been named the Demon Forest. Whenever a tribe attacks a city, it must sound the blood-red alarm. Song explains that Mofan knows about that very well, but is scolded by Ningsu for speaking casually about the crisis in Bo City. Jinlin City is just beyond a tunnel, but a student fears there may be monsters inside and recommends that they take the mountain path. The others are confident in their abilities though, and Mofan can only sigh about their ignorance. Mofan offers to protect Mu from danger, but she rejects him since he should probably be protecting Ningsu. A mid-tier hunter explains that they should keep moving when Mu feels like they are being watched. Just then, demon trolls appear and startle the group. Mu works in tandem with the mid-tier hunter to defeat one. He taunts the other for being slave-level beast, which causes it to run for help. The very next moment, we see that help has arrived quickly, and the students realize that the cave must be their nest. A student gets injured and manages to get saved, but the others are having a difficult time fighting off the endless beasts. Ningsu wants Mofan to charge in with her since their magic will wear out if things continue like they are. He follows her as Mu can only call out his name. Ningsu rushes forward and calls Mofan a slowpoke for falling behind, but he reminds her that he is risking his life by following her. Mofan stops to collect some spirits when he begins to feel like a noob who is carried by a pro to gain experience points. Ningsu's impatience gets her in some trouble, but Mofan arrives just in time to help out. He helps her out again but feels the need to explain that he was just protecting her and not feeling her up. We see that the other group is losing their battle but are relieved when they see ice chains. Mofan and Ningsu appear behind the beasts and wipe them all out. They finally leave the cave but see that Mofan is missing. He arrives moments later and explains that he fell behind after tripping. That night, some of the guys try to take a peek of the bathing girls, but run when they think they have been spotted. Back at the camp, they pretend like they had warned their captured friend to not go. The girls notice another person using shadow magic though and want to know who it was. Just then, Mofan arrives and must explain to them that he is not able to afford a shadow item, so it could not have been him. The captured guy gets branded a pervert, and the others completely agree. Later, Mofan combines the soul remnants that he has retrieved and finally creates a soul essence. He exclaims that 5 more of those and his lightning will reach level 4. Mofan gets even more excited when he thinks about how only a handful of mages can ever reach that level. The next day, they arrive at Jinlin City and decide to scout the outskirts. After finding a safe entry spot, they decide to search for a spacious building that will serve as their base. They choose a nearby building that coincidentally turns out to be one of the areas they have to survey anyway. The building feels a bit eerie though, and they notice how the plants aren't growing towards the light, but seem to be more attracted to the dark. They think it would be smart to leave some people outside as guards. Mofan volunteers along with Ting Ting, and Mu seems to have a problem with that for some reason. Inside, the students split up to examine the surroundings. The experienced hunter is startled by something, and Mu checks to find human remains. Before she can react though, she is stopped and shown that they are in a really bad situation. They return to the group to find that the entrance they used has been blocked off, and running proves useless as the vines around them converge. Mofan watches in horror as part of the building covered in veins collapses to reveal a demon. Everyone is trapped inside, so Mofan decides that he must act fast to save his friends. However, before he can even move an inch, a large winged beast appears. Its power is so intimidating that Mofan can hardly breathe, so he uses his shadow magic to get away. Inside, the students run away, but Ningsu refuses to leave their classmate behind. The nightmare isn't over though, as more vines close in on them. They come up with a plan to work together and manage to buy themselves some time. Outside, Ting Ting realizes that Mofan just used shadow magic, which means he has been hiding his 4th element from everyone. There's no time to explain though, as the winged beast breaks free of the vines and eats the tree demon. They return to the building just as their friends emerge, begging for Ting Ting to rescue their classmate. They wonder how the academy could think it was a good idea to send them to the city, and turn their anger towards Mofan. He had been the one to pick the building and stayed outside while they all risked their lives. However, Mofan laughs and explains that he would have blocked the exit if he really wanted them dead. The others continue insulting Mofan by saying that those that run away are just as dangerous to the group as monsters are. Mofan has had enough and decides that he will go on to another survey area alone. Manyan tries to stop him, but Mofan has already made up his mind. Manyan understands. He gives Mofan a spare survey device and GPS watch. The watch is most important though, as it allows them to track each other's location. Mofan apologizes to Mu for leaving her with a bunch of ingrates, and she gives him a protective bracelet. If he encounters danger, he must infuse his magic into the bracelet and crush it so that it can protect him. Just before he leaves, Mofan explains that she shouldn't wait for him, and asks that she find a good man to marry instead. Elsewhere, Nian reminds his group that they are no longer in the military, and explains that they are approaching their destination, Jinlin City. We then see that Mofan didn't actually care about the trash talkers, and just needed a good excuse to leave the team. He returns to where the tree demon had died in the hopes of finding a good spirit. With the help of his leveled up Wolfie, Mofan is able to find a very rare and valuable pseudomorph seed. He is sure that other summoners would kill to have the chance at developing it into a summoned creature, but it's all his. We are then reintroduced to an old face when we see that Officer Kong has come to visit Songhai. Songhai notices the scar on Kong's neck and points out how if it had been just a little higher, he would be dead. It is the scar that was left after fighting the Darkwing Wolf in Bo City. They had both been severely injured, but the beast managed to escape. However, Kong explains that he is there to look for Mofan, who is like a brother to him, and has been worried ever since he revealed his dual talents. He reveals that Nian and his subordinates had been expelled from the military. Kong knows that Nian is a lunatic and suspects that he may be playing his tricks again. Songhae is surprised to hear about his expulsion since he had just visited. When Kong hears this, he immediately asks for Mofan's location and heads to Jinlin City. In the city, Mofan thinks about how much stronger he has become, as the wolves that once gave him trouble are now just playthings for Wolfie. They are surrounded, but Mofan must finish the survey, so they begin their battle. We see that Mofan really has come a long way since the days in Bo City, where just one of these beasts proved to be a great challenge for him and his classmates. Now Mofan is able to take on several, and prepares to grow even stronger as he collects their spirits. Elsewhere, the other students are doing well to survive, but have only managed to do one survey, with many left to go. Some of the students begin to appreciate Mofan more when they realize how hard it is to fight without him. Another student thinks that he might already be dead, but Minyan reveals that not only is he alive, he is also headed back. At their new base, Ming has returned with some water, but explains that he is itchy from bug bites. Ting Ting explains that the girl's condition is not good since her wounds are also affected by poison, so she puts an antidote in the water. In that moment though, Ming is overcome with urges and must be pulled off Ting Ting. Later, Mofan returns and reveals that he has done 2 surveys already. Some students assume that there probably weren't any monsters there, but Minyan points out that those were the most dangerous areas. Mofan does some taunting of his own, and the two must be told to stop by Ning-Su. However, the guy is tripped by another student and a different argument begins. Everyone seems to be on edge and Ning-Su pulls Mofan aside to discuss it. Mofan thinks that's just how they always are, but she points out how odd it was for Ting Ting to hug Mofan so quickly. Mofan explains to Ning-Su that Ting Ting just has a crush on him the same way she once did. Ning-Su says that she was just young back then, but Mofan reveals that in his heart, she is like a beautiful princess living in a castle. We then see a bug crawl away from Mofan and a mysterious dot on his forehead. He goes on to say that he will go with her again if she wants to leave her family, but she explains that they have already arranged her marriage. She has no feelings for her fiancé, but that is what a political marriage is. Just then, Mofan snaps out of it thanks to his mind-calming gear and realizes that something is definitely wrong. Ning-Su thinks that a spell must be forcing people to overtly express their deepest desires, and figures Ming must have brought something back from the pond. However, their discussion must end abruptly when a large explosion decimates the building their friends are in. The story continues as we see that Mofan has returned to find that several of his classmates are under the spell. Minyan tells him to hurry up and kill the monster responsible so that everyone can return to normal. Mofan understands the importance and recommends that Minyan go to the pond instead, while he stays to deal with their friends. Minyan wasn't expecting to hear that, but Ning-Su arrives to take Mofan anyway, and Minyan expresses his appreciation. They arrive at the pond, but Mofan is shocked to see that Ning-Su is under the spell. He wonders why she isn't fighting anyone, and realizes that her deepest desire must actually be to settle the problem as soon as possible. A powerful spider monster reveals itself, and is unaffected by the duo's attacks. The fight would go on for a while before Mofan realizes what the spider's intentions are. It hunts by first bewitching her prey with her spiderlings, making them kill each other. That way, she can easily drag them back to her territory and feast. Ning-Su finally manages to keep the beast from moving, and Mofan hits it with his lightning. However, the spider is still alive, and Ning-Su is seemingly fed up when she uses an attack we have yet to see that instantly destroys the beast. Mofan recognizes the use of such powerful magic equipment and knows that its use requires a person to pay a tremendous price. After she collapses, Mofan can sense that the bow feels different from most magic tools, but can't figure out why. His intuition is telling him though that the changes Ning-Su has been through the past couple years must have something to do with the weapon. They return to the church to see that everyone is back to normal. Mofan finds Mu crying as she has been traumatized by the situation and his attempts at comforting her fail. He then returns the bracelet she gave him earlier. Mofan explains that the fight against the spider demon was almost lost, but he still couldn't bring himself to destroy her lucky charm. Just then, Ming's dead body is found, and Liao confesses to doing it but explains that he couldn't control himself. He is hysterical, but the others can't blame him since they were all under the beast's spell. The students realize now that the practical has gotten out of hand and would like to go back. Ning-Su explains that they are not done with the surveys, but have enough data to work with. So after burying their classmate, they head back home. The students feel awful after what they've been through and are constantly in fear of being attacked. Ting Ting explains that the safe zone is still far away, but once they get past the forest, they should be able to see patrols from the military. Moments later, they are relieved to see that they have been saved when they run into a group of soldiers. Minyan points out that there is something strange about their uniforms, and Song begins to greet their saviors. However, he is interrupted when their leader Nian commands his subordinates to eliminate the unnecessary students. Zhang He is Nian's little brother and he begs him to stop. However, Nian explains that they must all be silenced since he can't risk anyone finding out what he is up to. It is an absolute massacre as the students begin getting taken out one by one. Liao attempts to use his status to stop them but just ends up being killed. Zhang He is confused since the only reason he gave them their location was so that his brother could help him defeat Mofan. Nian threatens to kill him if he doesn't come to his side, so Zhang He does. However, Mofan stops him and explains that if Nian doesn't leave, then he will kill Zhang He. Nian is willing to make that sacrifice, but says that he will let everyone live as long as Mofan stays with them. Mofan is intrigued by the request, and Nian is impressed that he shows no fear. He explains that he is trying to change humanity so they will no longer have to live in fear of the demons, achieving a tremendous power to stand against the Black Curia. He then reveals that he would like Mofan to undergo an experiment. It is one that will unveil a brand new magical element. He reveals that they have already lost numerous mages to the experiments, but after years of research they found that Mofan is the key to the new element's success. The experiment mutates the candidate through parasitic inhibition. The other test subjects lost their minds because they couldn't withstand the power. They need someone with the ability to withstand the potency of multiple elements, and the fact that Mofan is someone with innate dual elements means that he is perfect for it. They go to capture Mofan, but he reveals that he only put up with his nonsensical speech so Ningsu could have time to cast her spell. Her realm magic and arrow attack proved to be too powerful for them to avoid. However, we see that Ningsu has drained her energy once again. Mofan asks the other students to take her and run since they won't have much time before the group free themselves. They go separate ways as Mofan knows that they will not chase his friends if he is not with them. Mofan's plan is to flee into Jinlin City in the hopes that the powerful beast there will take care of Nian and his group. The group arrive to find that their movements are handicapped because of the swampy terrain. Mofan uses the opportunity to get away but can see from a distance how formidable the group can be. He knows that it will take several more monsters to take them out and just now realizes that Nian wasn't with them. He finds the lizard monster's nest with a giant winged beast sitting atop it. The group arrive and explain that the reptiles might as well be insects to them. Mofan decides to see just how true that is and agitates the nest. The woman claims that their objective is a noble one and she vows to take Mofan alive for the experiment. The beasts have other ideas as they surround Mofan, but he amazes the group with his powerful lightning magic. The woman can see that it's even higher than spirit level and marvels at his exceptional magic capacity. In that moment, he is caught off guard but is saved by the woman, who again promises to keep him alive. After a while, she asks that they retreat together as he clearly depleted too much energy. She assures them that he is an ideal candidate for the experiment and has an extremely high probability of success. However, he still refuses to trust them, pointing out how they had ruthlessly killed a couple other students. She continues to plead with him, explaining that their experiments are far more humane than the cursed spells of the Black Curia. She explains that they have finally managed to create a blood relic that can transform a mage's physique. The mutation will enable a mage to gain extraordinary powers. The only reason their volunteers failed is because the blood relic drains the energy of at least 2 star clouds, and the souls of most mages can't withstand that. She again claims that Mofan is the ideal candidate, but he refuses to trust them still. The giant lizards surround him and he is running out of options. He thinks about how close his fire element star is to breaking through to the next level, and asks that Wolfie defend him. With nowhere to run, he begins to attempt leveling up right there. Wolfie does well to hold the lizards back, but is obviously becoming fatigued. Mofan realizes that the fire he has started needs to burn stronger if he wants to make a breakthrough. He decides to concentrate all his energy into the fire star cloud with the intention of just blowing the entire thing up. The group can't believe how crazy Mofan is to try leveling up under those conditions, and decide that they need to rescue him. The woman's attack doesn't accomplish much, but it doesn't matter anyway. Mofan is finally ready. He thanks his archwolf on a job well done and uses an astral blaze attack to clear the entire area. They manage to escape to a safer spot and Mofan sends Wolfie back to get some much needed rest. However, the group catch up to him and ask that he stop resisting. They know that he has used up too much energy and ask that he just come peacefully. However, he realizes that the sun is out now and there are shadows everywhere. After using his shadow talent to get away, the group is ambushed by the lizards. Mofan watches from above and can only imagine how surprised they would be if they found out about his 4th talent. He then points out how leveling up while in the midst of battle is far more effective compared to being in peace. revealing that if he wasn't driven into a corner just then, it normally would have taken him another year to get his fire star cloud to level 3. He is absolutely exhausted, but can finally take a moment to relax, and thinks about how his friends should be entering the safe zone right about now. However, he is shocked by the horrifying sight of his friends captured in a cage. Nian demands that Mofan surrender since he has sealed their abilities and will drop them if he doesn't. Manyan's efforts to warn Mofan go unheard, and Nian explains that one day mankind will appreciate him for his efforts. Just then, Kong arrives demanding that he free the students, and mocking Nian's experiments. He explains that Mofan is an exceptional talent all on his own, and has a promising future without the need of Nian's help. Kong calls him a coward for threatening students, and Nian understands now that the entire situation is a mess. He explains that there are very few in the military that can put up a fight against him, and says that Kong is not one of them. His subordinate cannot believe his cruelty when told to feed the students to the Aerodactyl, but obeys his leader anyway. Mofan tries his best to beat them there, as we see that Niang antagonizes Kong by mentioning the death of a woman in his past. He points out that Kong couldn't save Bo City and will fail again to save these innocent students. Kong explains that no matter how many times he fails, he will never stop trying. Kong gets away from Nian's attacks and reveals that wind is only his side element, his real strength lies in fire. Mofan stares in amazement when he witnesses Kong's constellation circles that are evidence of expert tier magic. Comets rain from the sky and Kong tasks Mofan with rescuing the students. His friends are terrified as they approach the beast, and Mofan arrives just as it appears to be waking up. Nian's subordinates arrive to warn Mofan that the Aerodactyl is too powerful. The woman realizes that she had been wrong, and it is obvious now that Nian has lost his sanity. He is no longer acting for the sake of the new element, but to satisfy his thirst for murder. Mofan explains that it's too late now, and if they get in his way again, he will kill them all. She again warns that trying to fight the beast is suicide, but he says he doesn't need her to tell him that. He is completely exhausted and unsure of how he will even get past the lizards, but explains that he has no choice. Unlike them, he has a heart, and it won't let him abandon his friends. She says that if he really wants to save them, then he will have to use the blood relic, but he doesn't even want to look at the thing. She explains that the Magic Association has banned its use, and the government forbids any further research. Perhaps it is unethical, but what can't be denied is that it brings forth tremendous power. It is feared and therefore deemed evil, but she points out that good or evil is determined by the user. She knows that she will have to pay for her wrongdoings, but says that his friends are innocent and should not have to die. He must now choose between charging in there and dying worthlessly, or crushing the blood relic to save them. Mofan knows that the situation is hopeless, but has decided to do whatever it takes to make sure neither Nian or the Aerodactyl harm them. He takes a relic from her, and she thinks about how ridiculously powerful his transformation will be since he has 3 talents. The story continues as we see Mofan's transformation begin. The woman watching him anticipates an extremely powerful transformation since Mofan has 3 talents. The transformation is a brutal process, but is soon over as we see that Mofan has become a demon. The girl is in awe to finally see that Mofan has awakened the demon talent. Just before he leaves, Mofan must correct her by making sure she knows that he actually had more than 3 talents. He is gone in an instant and arrives just in time to save his friends from being eaten by the Aerodactyl. His punch absolutely destroys the beast, and his kick is even more devastating. The group are in denial as they can't believe their own eyes when witnessing such power. They explain that actually having 4 elements makes a significant difference in the transformation, and he has become at least 4 times stronger than before. What's most impressive though is how he has managed to maintain consciousness through it all. However, his friends are worried to see Mofan's radical change and wonder what happened, but he has no time to explain as the fight is not over. The beast still proves to be a powerful opponent but takes a good hit when Mofan feeds the hungry creature a fireball. The lizards that had once been formidable foes are now nothing to him, and Aerodactyl is forced to call other lizards in the city to back them up. However, Mofan calls upon his ravaging shadow wolves, of which there are many. They make quick work of all the beasts, and we see that Mofan's ability to always continue developing is on full display when he collects more spirits. Just as before, the lizard army is endless, and Manyan is devastated to see that Mofan looks at him almost like a stranger. Mofan's intention to protect them is obvious though when he forms a protective wall around his friends. The Aerodactyl flees and Mofan chases after it, only to be knocked back by a powerful blow from the beast that desperately wants to escape. The other lizards use that moment to retreat as well, and Manyan reminds Mofan of Kong's fight. Elsewhere in the city, Nian continues to taunt Kong about how weak he is, and uses his petrification ability to easily negate Kong's attacks. Just then, Mofan declares that he has come to send Nian to hell, moving at an intense speed and finally pinning him down. It's quite clear to him that Mofan has successfully awakened the demon talent. Nian would like more credit for bestowing him with incredible power, but is just ignored. He proclaims that the fire element is useless against him when he petrifies it, so Mofan unleashes a deadly lightning spear. Nian has a moment to realize that the beast he has created will be what kills him. The delay in the attack ends and he is engulfed in lightning. Mofan sends a shadow wolf for good measure and Nian is finally defeated. Everyone arrives and Kong informs Nian's subordinates that he will execute them all if they attempt to flee, but they have decided to not resist. She asks to see Nian though, and Kong explains that he had been killed by the demon they created. Mu is warned to not approach Mofan as people who have underwent demon transformation can go berserk at any time. It is dangerous to be near him, so they must find a solution to revert him to human form, but they are running out of time. Kong explains that no one has ever survived after being turned into a demon. He asks that no one move an inch as he attempts to communicate with Mofan. Kong begs that he not lose his human consciousness and pulls himself together. It's clearly a struggle though, and Kong explains that the demon element has never been a true element because of its deadly post-effects. While it does temporarily grant unparalleled fighting capabilities, it is likely that it will also destroy his soul. Mofan asks about what he needs to do, and Kong reveals that lots of soul essence will be required. It is critical that Mofan keeps his power under control so that Kong can take him back to the military. There, he will be given all the soul essence he needs. He asks that he restrain himself, but is shocked to see Mofan release a scream and take off, as his friends can only cry out his name. Sometime later, Ningsu awakens after having a nightmare about Mofan. She had been unconscious for a while, but is only concerned about him. Her father explains that he has likely died in Jinlin City, leaving her devastated. Elsewhere, Zinzai can only wonder about what happened to her brother as no one will tell her, explaining that they have been forbidden. She doesn't need their reassurance though. Mofan promised that he would come back to visit her, and her brother has never let her down. Later, Ningsu continues to think about Mofan as her father requests that she not use her ice bow for at least a year. He is worried something might happen to her, but she can only wonder if Mofan is really dead. Mu Zhao never thought that Mofan would go so far as to throw his own life away to save her, and wishes he did. Elsewhere, a scout returns to the military informing them that he had found countless giant reptile corpses in a lake. He explains that they had been burned, electrified, and brutally ripped apart. That is suspicious enough, but what is more bizarre is that all their soul remnants were missing. They ponder if it could be the work of a commander-level beast, and Commander Liman decides to investigate. Later, Mofan's old friend Zhang goes to see Kong and explains the strange happenings in Pingsha Lake. He believes that it might have something to do with Mofan, but is told to wait since Kong will send someone else to check. He says that it would only be suicide for him to go at his current level, and must remain calm. However, Zhang explains that Mofan is his brother, and being calm in this situation is impossible. Kong thinks that there is little chance that Mofan is still alive, but even if he is, there is no way he is still sane. Moments later, Kong is informed that Zhang assaulted the guards and has left the military, but it's clear where he is headed. We then watch as Zhang speaks with a shady character named Da Jing about purchasing some soul essence. The man explains that the city they're in is the closest one to Pingsha Lake, which is known for having several lizards and therefore lots of soul essence. He is a bit skeptical if the young Zhang can afford it though, but gladly accepts when offered 300 million each. Elsewhere, we see that Commander Liman has joined a group of hunters. They discuss how their journey will become more dangerous as nighttime approaches, since that's when lizards appear. Their leader explains though that the treasure they are searching for is worth the risk. He makes sure to whisper this though, since Liman isn't really part of their group. She asks that they hurry before nightfall comes, and thinks about how she is nearing the lake that she intends to investigate. Back in the city, Dajing tells his partner the plan to sell fake spirit essence to Zhang. When they are ready, Zhang gives him the famous diamond card to pay, but notices that the spirit essence are fake. The men try to say that Zhang is at fault for releasing the spirits, but he is having none of it. The scammers then call for backup, but Zhang laughs and explains to them that he doesn't fear them at all. He has killed a handful of warrior level and countless servant level beasts. The thugs are mid-tier mages and don't believe Zhang one bit. However, Zhang demonstrates just how much he has grown since we last saw him. With one attack, he is able to not only defeat the thugs, but completely destroy their shop. One of them is shocked to see his badge that identifies him as a guards mage, and Zhang demands they tell him where he can actually buy spirit essence. Elsewhere, the hunters reveal that they are in search of an earth spirit seed. Liman explains that she couldn't care less about the seed and that it's time for them to split up. That night, Liman thinks about how much of a disaster it would be if a commander level monster has actually appeared and is killing the lizards. Just then, she notices that her stamina is draining rapidly and checks her legs to find that she is being poisoned by the swamp. Her realization has come too late, however, as she is surrounded by the predatory lizards. Just as she is about to be devoured, we see a familiar shining purple light. Liman awakes to find that a stranger has removed her pants, and he explains that it was simply to cure the poison. She wonders if he is actually Tarzan and thanks him for saving her. He then introduces himself using his go-to fake name, Fanmo. Fanmo asks if she is in search of the Earth Spirit Speed like everyone else, but she reveals that she is actually there for an investigation. She realizes that the hunters will run into trouble the same way she did, and asks for Fanmo's help. Fanmo tries to decline, but she is persistent. He begrudgingly agrees, but is upset when he thinks about all the mages that keep feeding themselves to the commander level beast in the valley, even after he warned them. She is surprised to hear about the beast, and he explains that it's actually been injured. Liman thinks they should go kill it, but Mofan reveals that he has actually been trying for quite a while, and it would be impossible for just the two of them to do it. They decide that it would be best to find the hunters first so they can kill it as a team. Fanmo explains though that he will only do it if he can keep the beast's corpse afterwards. In the valley, the hunters are having a problem with their element detector. They assume it must be faulty, but are shocked to see that the land they are standing on is actually a beast. It seems to be agitated by their presence and uses the acidic swamp to eliminate the pests. Nearby, we see that Zhang had watched the entire event, but must run when giant lizards close in on him. Fanmo begins his journey with Liman, and he explains that if the hunters had made it to the valley before them, then they are likely already dead. They emerge from the cave to find someone running from lizards and call out to him. He manages to escape into the cave where the lights are too dark for them to see each other, however they recognize each other's voice. Liman illuminates the area and the two friends happily greet each other for the first time in a while. Mofan can't believe he risked his life to find him, and Zhang gives him the spirit essence he had purchased. Mofan refuses to accept them, but tells him if he really wants to help, then he should come with them to defeat the commander level beast. A bit later, Zhang is curious about Mofan's condition, and he explains that he is able to manage it for the most part. Liman explains that more hunters are attempting to find the seed, so Mofan decides that they must find the beast tomorrow. He explains that the area is overrun by reptiles, and it's because of the commander level beast they call the carapace. If they can kill it, then it will stop all the reptile proliferation. However, the carapace is far too powerful for them to face head on, so Mofan has come up with a plan. He reveals that the carapace is not the only overpowered monster in the valley. There is a poisonous worm nearby, and the plan is to lure them towards one another so they can kill each other. Luring the beasts will put them in a tough spot though, however he explains that there is a cave underneath the area and they can simply blast a hole into the ground to escape. Mofan will lure the carapace, and Zhang is surprised to see that the job of luring the worm is his. Later, they all get into place and we see that they have on military communication devices. Mofan explains that the fruit Zhang is eating will prevent him from getting poisoned, and asks that he get in place as it's time to execute the plan. Zhang yells for the beast in hopes of waking it from its slumber. It works, but he is shocked to see that it's much bigger than Mofan had described. Zhang runs from it, but is reminded by Mofan to allow it to catch up as his job is to lure it. He thinks that it's a bit slow and notices how Mofan had at some point damaged its rear legs. Zhang worries that the beast might give up, but Mofan reveals that the fruit he gave him was actually one of its eggs, and the beast will stop at nothing to get him now. The two of them meet at the destination after successfully luring the two beasts, but Zhang wonders if they will actually fight each other. Mofan says that he is sure they will since he fed the carapace the legs of the worm earlier. They then hide as they wait for Liman to destroy the rock layers below. However, the guys hope that she is joking when she explains that the rocks are too sturdy for her to break. She comes to the realization that the earth spirit seed must be embedded in the ground nearby and is fortifying the rocks. Zhang begins to panic, but Mofan just says that it's time for another round against these familiar beasts as he begins his demon transformation. The story continues just after Mofan is finished transforming. Zhang reminds him about the plan, so he deals a massive blow to the ground and they get sucked in by the whirlpool that forms. Underground, Liman explains that the seed is nearby, but its power is now dissipating since they made a hole in the ground. Zhang is the only earth user among them, so Mofan tells him to take it. It is one of the finest earth spirit seeds that exist, and will allow him to create large swamps that bog down enemies and inflict them with poison. Afterwards, the trio watches the battle ends with the worm coming out victorious. Mofan's friends can't believe their eyes when Mofan makes his way to the battlefield. He receives the powerful commander level spirit fragment for his trouble, and explains that it will help keep his mind from being tormented by the demon element. Just then, the worm comes after him, but Liman uses expert tier magic to save him, leaving Zhang in awe of her power. They let the worm escape, and Mofan reminds Liman of their deal. She offers to have soldiers come help disassemble it, but Mofan says that won't be necessary, and offers to sell it to her instead. She explains that the military would love to dissect the commander level reptile and accepts. Later, Mofan is in his head and explains that the repercussions for having the demon talent are getting worse every day. The reptile remnants he had consumed have not been enough to help him achieve a breakthrough, but now it's time to try the commander level spirit essence. The process might kill him, but he is running out of time and has no choice. Later, Zhang goes to meet Commander Kong to surprise him with Mofan. He explains that he couldn't believe it when Zhang told him that he was still alive, and Mofan reveals that his life was actually hanging by a thread. The results of a full body checkup show that Mofan's body has been fully cleaned of the demon blood, and his soul is beginning to heal. Furthermore, his body has developed a tolerance to the blood relic. This means that it won't have any effect on him anymore, and he can no longer perform the demon transformation. Kong explains that it was never an actual talent, only a temporary source of power that he gained from a stimulant. The power still resides in him, but just in a different form. Zhang is optimistic about their future, but Kong reveals that there is still a price to pay for his subordination. He does not regret finding Mofan one bit, but accepts his punishment. Kong demotes him to low rank guard and sends him to a post in Song City. Later, Mofan takes the blame for Zhang's new post, but Zhang says it won't be that bad since Song City is so peaceful. Mofan explains that he will be headed to Song City as well, and they say their goodbyes. When Mofan is alone, he reveals that he can feel the devastating blow that's been dealt to his soul, and how each of his elements has gone down a level. Elsewhere, a man named Lin fortifies a damaged bridge to help Zendaya cross even after she rejected his assistance numerous times. Girls nearby remark how popular he is and can't understand why he keeps approaching Zendaya. They assume that it is out of pity and openly mock her about her disability. Lin tries to stop them, but the girls continue their nasty insults. However, in that moment, Mofan appears to shock them and explains that his sister isn't someone they should mess with. They can't believe he would do that to a group of ladies, but Mofan says he only sees a group of fish in the water. They challenge Mofan but instantly regret it when he gives them a taste of his lightning magic. Lin is amazed at such absurd power, and Zendaya rushes to greet her brother. The two catch up, and Lin arrives to introduce himself to Mofan. Mofan has no interest in speaking with Lin, but he explains that he is just looking out for Zendaya. Mofan points out though how he had not done anything when she was being bullied, and believes that Lin cares more about protecting his popularity. Lin doesn't take the disrespect lightly, and onlookers can't believe someone would try to talk down to the Ice Prince of Song City. They explain that guys are always trying to talk to Zendaya, but they all fear the powerful Lin. However, it is made clear to everyone that Mofan is the one that should be feared when he easily overpowers Lin with just one spell. They leave, and he warns Lin to never show his face to him again. Some rude people steal their taxi, but Mofan remembers that he now has his own transportation. That night, they enjoy a meal after Mofan spent the day spoiling his little sister with gifts. She makes him promise to stay out of trouble from now on, and Mofan uses his shadow magic so that the two can share a dance for the first time. However, they are interrupted when they spot a strange object outside the window. It is revealed to be a large serpent, sending everyone into a panic as it approaches their building. Just then, a winged man appears, stopping its attack and making it somehow disappear. Mofan comforts his sister and they head home. It is explained that the citizens of Song City should not be alarmed about the appearance of the giant serpent. The government has issued a statement announcing that it was actually a newly developed beast shadow projection spell and there were no casualties. However, some citizens refuse to believe that since the creature seems so real to them. Mofan completely agrees, explaining that he knows shadow magic very well and that a projection spell could never create what he saw that night. This makes him wonder what the government is hiding, and he gives Miss Tang a call. Elsewhere, Zhang stops a tamer from beating on a beast. The tamer explains that the birds are used to fight, but this one in particular is not of pure blood and can hardly understand commands. He claims that it's just a waste of food, but Zhang is done listening. He explains that taking his anger out on the bird makes him the real animal. Zhang must put the tamer in his place when he becomes unruly, and the man can't believe how powerful a low rank guard can be. Zhang then takes the beast so that he could feed him and set it free. When he does, we see that he has a wound on his arm. Elsewhere, Mofan meets with Miss Tang and explains what he saw that night, revealing that he thinks the serpent might even be stronger than a commander-level beast. He thinks to himself how the creature probably could have killed him with one attack even in his demon form. Miss Tang explains that there used to be several villages beyond the barrier, and she was born in one of them. Since they are not protected by the barrier, several monsters roam free. This means that the residents of the village must be powerful mages, and what might even look like a fragile little girl could actually be a powerful hunter. She explains that the only reason monsters can't invade her village is because it has the blessing of a god. Mofan eagerly wants to know which god it is so he could pray to it for some of that good protection, but she reveals that he has already seen it. Mofan is shocked to hear it's the snake. He is convinced that her and the other villagers must be snake people. She says that kind of stuff is taught in history class, but he reveals he never really listened in class. The villagers don't usually share their information with outsiders, so Mofan remarks how they should get married so they don't have any secrets between them. She offers to take him there, but he refuses, explaining that it's pretty obvious that a weird village like hers does stuff like human sacrifices. She points out how he seems more scared than usual, and he reveals that he has been having visions of the serpent every time he closes his eyes. She says that it's because the serpent had chosen him as his prey and was just waiting for the right time to eat him. Mofan changes his mind and the two head to her home village. Outsiders are not allowed, but Miss Tang explains that she will take full responsibility. She takes a key from the guard, but he clearly seems upset. Inside a temple, she shows Mofan a mural of the serpent, and he finally begins to believe that it's protecting the village. She says that the serpent is a totem beast. These beasts have always protected humans, and so the people worship them. She explains that the beast is actually there protecting them as they speak. Many magic organizations are afraid of their power being too strong, so they are kept a secret, and seals are used to keep them from leaving certain areas. Guards are in charge of keeping them from being revealed, and she is one of them. Furthermore, no one knows how or why it appeared in the city, and she explains that it normally only reveals itself when it senses a powerful threat. She chose to be in Bo City because of the possibility that there might be totem beasts somewhere there. Mofan remembers how Zenzaya said something similar and thinks about what else the Black Curia want from Bo City. Mofan then notices a little baby serpent in the mural, but she explains that it's the one protecting her village and the one he saw that night in the city. It was the size of a skyscraper, and he can only imagine how big it will be when it grows up. Afterwards, she explains that she has a favor to ask after revealing everything to him. Mystical snakes shed once every decade, but they become extremely weak when they do. Its enemies and those with ulterior motives will take the opportunity to make a move whenever it happens. There is also believed to be a traitor among them, so she needs someone that she can trust to protect it while it's shedding. He explains that he needs some time to think about it, and Miss Tang tells him about how it had protected her growing up. Mofan can see that she obviously cares for this creature and agrees to help. That is, as long as he gets to keep its skin, since he has heard that snake skin can be made into great magic armor. Just then, she sees that it's being reported that the snake may not have been an illusion after all, and people are beginning to die because of poisonous after effects left by the serpent. Miss Tang is furious since it's obvious that someone is trying to frame it. Elsewhere, Zhang is surprised to see that the bird has actually returned. It clearly wants to stay by his side after giving him medicine for his wound, so Zhang gives it the name Huey. Later, Mofan and Miss Tang arrive at the Magic Court Hall where they are discussing the serpent. Miss Tang introduces Mofan to the man that chased the snake away that night, Judge Heiyu. One man loudly demands that the snake be handed over to them for the sake of eliminating its hidden danger. His name is Zumeng, and he belongs to a group that strongly believes that all threats to the city be eliminated. His opposer is Mr. Liu. He believes that Zumeng's real intentions are to become president of the Magical Association, and is simply trying to gain more supporters. Zumeng says that they should reveal to the public that the Magic Association is raising a giant snake that has the ability to wipe humanity off of the face of the planet. Miss Tang speaks out of turn, but the head of the association, who is also her uncle, agrees that they shouldn't jump to conclusions. However, Zumeng demands that they hand over the serpent in the next day, or warns that they will take it by force. Afterwards, the head of the Magic Association named Zong decides that Miss Tang must take it somewhere safe. Heiyu would like to accompany her, but it's explained that the snake becomes extremely wary during Exodus, and will regard high-level mages other than Miss Tang as enemies. Heiyu is skeptical that Mofan can do anything against Zumeng's high-ranking guards, but the head says he is the only one that can help since he is a mid-tier mage. That night, Miss Tang explains that they will transport the snake in a totem pearl. It has energy that can sustain the life of the mystical snake, but once the energy runs out, it won't be able to survive inside and must be released. She calls out to the beast, and once it appears, explains that she will take it somewhere else for its shedding. She introduces Mofan as a naughty, disobedient student, and it seems to recognize him from the city. She performs a ritual and reassures the beast that nothing bad will happen. Mofan can't believe the giant thing is actually in the pearl, and Miss Tang tells him to stop fooling around, since they need to leave right away. Mofan calls Zinzaya to tell her that he will be gone for a while, but hears lots of noise around her. She explains that she's helping out at the hospital since lots of students have come down with a strange disease. Elsewhere, Zumeng scolds his subordinate for allowing the snake to get away, and orders that Miss Tang be arrested. We see that Mr. Lu is there as well, and he explains that he wanted to warn them about the Totem Clan's plan. However, Zong seems to be suspicious of him and was keeping him busy. Mr. Lu has a plan though, and decides that they will send every intern in the magic court to capture them. The serpent will only detect high-tier mages, but the interns are only mid-tier, so they decide to send them all. Elsewhere, we see that Mofan and Miss Tang are being directed by the serpent, and have stopped to get some rest. Everyone there is wearing a mask though, and it is explained that the people in that city are being afflicted by a strange disease. The news has spread, and everyone now seems to think that the snake is the cause. The people in the town are convinced that finding it will be the only way to stop the plague. Mofan, always being the gentleman, tries to comfort her, but she reminds him that he has a room of his own. Later that night, she calls to him, and he arrives instantly, making sure to get close so no one hears their conversation. He has started to think that the snake might actually have something to do with the disease, and she admits to not being sure about it. Mofan realizes Zumeng's threats weren't the only reason she was told to get the snake out of the city. It must have been in case the snake was actually causing the disease. She doesn't believe it's the cause, but all she knows is that the snake has always watched over her. It is currently in its weakest state, and she will do anything to protect it. Elsewhere, Zhang finishes up racing his bird when they are stopped by a strange sight. It is an absurd number of magic court interns flying over the city. The story continues as Zhang tries to show General Ming the large number of demonic white eagles approaching their base. He thinks they should sound the alarms, but Ming reminds him that the western wall has always been peaceful and those birds have not attacked in decades. Elsewhere, it is explained that the disease is spreading rapidly, and that once contracted, people only have 7 days before they die. A high-ranking healing mage reveals that healing magic has no effect on it. Lu Meng uses this opportunity to blame the mythical snake, and Mr. Lu says that people will riot if news of its existence continues to spread. Zong asks that they be patient so he can investigate, and explains that he will ask Miss Tang to get a sample so that he can run some tests. Zumeng vows to kill the snake, and Zong says that it is exactly why he hides it from him. However, Zumeng reveals that it's too late. He already knows they are hiding in Bai Village. We then see that Bai Village is in worse shape than ever. In order to prevent the spread of the disease, residents are no longer allowed to leave. Mofan understands that things will only get worse if the snake is really the cause, and they decide they must find a way to leave. Mofan asks if she can just use her position in the Magic Association to get out, but she knows that Zumeng has surely issued her arrest. Mofan figures that the only way is to use force, and calls on Wolfie to get them out. Afterwards, a couple guards discuss how they can't go after them, as high-tier mages will easily be detected, and that low-level interns are already in pursuit. They know that the boy accompanying Miss Tang is only a mid-tier, and are certain that he will be no match for their interns. In a nearby field, we see that a plant element mage has stopped Wolfie's movement, and it becomes clear to Miss Tang that whoever it is just trying to buy some time. Mofan wants to burn down the entire field to save Wolfie, but they come up with a more strategic plan. Miss Tang creates a distraction with shadow magic while Mofan finds the mage behind the attack. He quickly finds her and states how much of a shame it is that such a cute girl has to be his enemy, as he traps her. Wolfie is injured, so they must continue on foot, and Miss Tang reminds Mofan to not underestimate the interns. They are elite and each have their own specialization. Later, their quest is paused when they spot more interns. They are not high-tier mages, but are heavily equipped with very expensive magical items. Miss Tang plans to take the two on the bird and will leave the one with wings to Mofan. This just gets him hyped up since Mofan has always hated guys that flaunted their wealth. We see that one of the interns is told by Mr. Lu that their only mission is to prevent them from entering Bai Mountain, but the man with the wings is too eager. He explains if they capture them now, then they can end the entire mission themselves. His name is Dongfang, and he appears before Mofan. Dongfang recommends Mofan give up since he never holds back. Dongfang thinks they're quitting the fight when Miss Tang takes a step back, but Mofan confidently remarks he only needs 15 minutes to defeat Dongfang all by himself. Their fight begins and Mofan realizes that Dongfang's flames are not ordinary. They are the flames of a high-grade spirit seed, and they remove shadows so Mofan can't use shadow magic. Mofan uses the flames of his own spirit seed, but Dongfang points out that it's only the ignite spell, a spell only for beginners. What Dongfang doesn't know is that Mofan has developed it all the way up to level 4, and he will be the first to get a taste of it. Dongfang puts on some armor and continues to taunt Mofan, but the armor is immediately destroyed. He tries to escape through the air, but Mofan reveals that he can control that area as well when he unleashes a lightning attack. Nearby, Miss Tang is outnumbered and eventually captured. However, Mofan appears and immediately recognizes the man named Lin that had been bothering his sister. Mofan realizes that he must have been too soft on him before and is surprised to see that he has once again touched someone close to him. Mofan keeps his promise to beat him every time he sees him. Lin's brother attempts to rescue him, but an attack from Miss Tang makes them realize that they are no match for the pair. They would later be shamed by their general, and Dongfang promises to make Mofan pay the next time they meet. Sometime later, Mofan and Miss Tang arrive atop a mountain, and she releases the mystical snake as it has almost run out of life energy. Mofan hesitantly mounts the beast, and Miss Tang explains that the snake allows him to because it is grateful for Mofan's help. She asks that he hold on tight, and they make their way to a nearby cave. On the way there, Mofan notices a large number of white demon eagles and wonders where they are going. Once in the cave, she asks that the snake give her a sample of its blood, and she explains that they will use it to create an antidote in case the snake really is the cause of the disease. Mofan points out that if the antidote works, then it will prove that the snake is at fault, but Miss Tang believes she must do what's right. Hopefully everyone will be cured, and she will protect the snake if she has to. She asks that they go their separate ways so she can face the blame on her own, but Mofan refuses. He says that they will save Song City together and then protect the mystical snake together as well. Later, the two arrive to deliver the snake's blood, and despite Zong's objections, are immediately arrested. Moments later, Heiyu arrives to reveal that the western fortress has been attacked by white demon eagles, and they are making their way to Song City. Zumang can't understand why these peaceful birds have decided to attack now, and Zong decides to call an emergency meeting with the heads of the association. At the western fortress, it is explained that their tame birds are no longer responding to orders out of fear. Their birds come from the same clan and share blood with the demon eagles. The tamer reveals that their lack of cooperation isn't even the worst case scenario. Just as he is explaining this, we see that their celestial birds have begun to rebel against them, dismounting the soldiers and killing them. The tamer explains that their behavior is an indicator that a monarch-level eagle is approaching, and they need to kill every one of their birds before it gets worse. The order is issued, and mages begin to kill their beasts. Elsewhere, Zhang spends some quality time with Huey, who seems to really enjoy the song he plays. They head towards the fortress after hearing explosions, and Zhang is told to take shelter. When he attempts to take Huey with him, he is told about the order to execute all celestial birds. Zhang refuses to obey the order, and the guard points out how selfish it would be to put everyone else in danger just to save a stupid bird. Zhang doesn't care about his opinion though, and defends Huey when it's attacked. Zhang is prepared to accept the consequences and tells Huey to flee to safety. Elsewhere, it is revealed that the antidote created is only able to slow the disease, but they will need the snake's bile to make a cure. Zumeng says that's all the proof they need to blame the snake, and they bring Miss Tang to the meeting. Zumeng pleads to her about bringing the snake to them. He says that the disease coupled with the demon eagle attack will only fill Song City with corpses. He promises that if the mythical snake cooperates, then they will not kill it. She asks where they are keeping Mofan and only agrees to bring the snake there. Later that night, Zhang is in prison for defying orders and is surprised to see Mofan. Zhang doesn't know anything about the plague, and Mofan is unaware of the bird attack, so they exchange information. Nearby, Miss Tang performs the ritual that will bring the snake. Mofan can feel the beast calling to him, but he knows that it wouldn't come back since it surely hasn't had enough time to finish shedding. Mofan realizes something must be going on and decides to leave. Zhang declines Mofan's invite as he is in enough trouble as it is. Mofan arrives just as the ritual ends, and the mythical snake has returned. Mr. Liu points out that it hasn't completed shedding and must still be in a state of weakness. Zumeng immediately makes the order to attack the snake. Miss Tang looks to Mr. Liu for help, but he reveals his true self. He states that she has done wonderfully, but must now leave the job of killing the beast to them. Mofan can't believe the number of high-ranked mages that they have gathered, and can only watch as they activate the lightning punishment formation. It is the expert tier magic of the lightning element, and its power can restrain even commander-level beings. The beast is clearly in pain, and Miss Tang begs them to stop. Zumeng doesn't care though, and turns to the crowd that has formed. He explains that this creature is what has caused the plague and makes sure that everyone knows he will be the one to stop it. His speech works as everyone begins to chant for its death. Miss Tang tries to explain that the mythical snake has actually always protected the city. It's too late, her cries are drowned out by their calls to kill it. Mofan must be held back and told that it's not his time yet. Miss Tang apologizes to her cherished beast for bringing it back in its weakest state, knowing that it only did it for her. Mofan realizes that the beast must have been alerting him, and Mr. Lu points out that it seems to be breaking free. The mages attack more fiercely, but Mofan realizes that it isn't trying to run away. Instead of raging out of control like a typical beast, it had used its remaining strength to comfort Miss Tang. Zhu Meng wants to use the opportunity to continue killing it, but is told that the situation with the birds has become much worse since a monarch-level eagle has joined the fight. Mr. Lu says that they should finish up here first, but it's explained that killing the snake will take too long. The magic spell has already restricted it from escaping and they can come back later, so Zhu Meng decides to send the troops to the fortress. Mofan speaks with someone there who explains that if they really want to help Miss Tang, then they need to clear the mythical snake of its charges. Mofan thinks that the snake can't be the cause of the disease since its blood doesn't cure it. He thinks about how the plague started in Bai City, and the woman explains the findings of an investigation she did on the first 2 cases. The people involved both had blood transfusions, and the blood came from Bai village. Mofan decides to go there, and he remembers that this woman is Ling Ling's older sister. She agrees to inform her sister and requests that she meet Mofan in Bai village. Mofan then asks that she watch over Miss Tang, as he has never seen her so hopeless. Later, Mofan meets with Ling Ling and the two get reacquainted. They head to a nearby blood storage facility where blood serums are kept. Ling Ling explains that blood serums increase the ability to produce new blood tenfold, and they are used on soldiers who have sustained heavy injuries. However, someone seemed to have contaminated a batch. Using disguises, they sneak in and find some blood to take as samples. However, they must hide as a general arrives demanding blood to help at the front lines. The employee claims that there is no blood in those cases, and Mofan wonders why the guy would lie since there is clearly blood inside. The man says that he is just doing his job, but the general pushes past him and takes the blood anyway. The man explains that he will notify his supervisor, Wang Yi. Mofan makes a call to Ling Ling's sister, who explains that he is a member of the Magic Association. Back at the fortress, we see that the battle against the demonic birds rages on. Mofan and Ling Ling arrive as they followed the general who took the batch of blood. After witnessing a group of demonic birds get decimated, they continue their search. Mofan finds the empty case but must hide when they hear the general explain that the birds have retreated. They haven't returned to their nest though and are most likely preparing for their next attack. Ling Ling reveals that she actually managed to retrieve one of the bags of blood, using some clever tricks. However, before she can analyze it, they hear Supervisor Wang Yi arrive outside. He demands that they return the blood and becomes absolutely enraged when the general explains that they have already used it all. He explains to his subordinate that he must report back to Mr. Lu, and Mofan decides to follow him. However, Ling Ling proves to be useful as always when she reveals that she attached a microphone onto him. At the lake, Miss Tang assures the beast that she won't leave his side, and hopes that Mofan hurry since the great snake won't hold out much longer. At the hospital, it is explained that the venom in the snake's blood doesn't match that of the infected, and it becomes more clear that the snake may not be the cause. Mr. Lu arrives to assure the patients that they will kill the snake soon, and some of them think that those that worship the snake should be punished as well. Mr. Lu has earned their trust and goes to speak with the doctor. He is disappointed when the doctor explains that poison will not kill the mythical snake like he had planned. Moments later, he is informed that a batch of blood had been taken from the facility in Bai village. He is infuriated, explaining that if the plague spreads at the fortress, then it will be obvious that the blood is contaminated, but he notices the spy device and stops talking. However, it's too late. Mofan understands that Mr. Lu is behind it all and now just needs to find the true origins of the poison. Ling Ling explains that the appearance of the first infected was the same day that the eagles left their nest, and Mofan seems to have discovered something. He believes that whatever the demonic birds are targeting must be the cause of the plague. Elsewhere, Zhang is shocked to find that a soldier has contracted the illness, just as Mofan arrives. Zhang comforts the man by explaining that he might have just been bitten by a rat. Ling Ling wants him to explain further, and he says that he had similar symptoms after being bitten by a poisonous rat. However, after Huey brought him some yin grass, he was able to recover. Mofan thinks the rat might be the answer to all their problems, and they head out to find one, leaving the poor man pleading for them to bring him back some medicine. They must wait for the rat to reveal itself since it's sensitive to movement, and the two discuss how they think humans and beasts should be protecting each other, not fighting. As they wait, Zhang can only hope that Huey is doing okay. Seemingly forgetting what they just talked about, Mofan attacks the rat when it appears. Its attempt to escape fails and it's captured. Ling finds that the rat's blood is indeed the cause of the illness, and Mofan was correct. The rats are the most beloved food of the white demon eagles, and their blood is what attracted them to the fortress. Everything is becoming clear, but they still don't have enough evidence to bring down a member of the council. However, what Mofan cares about more is that they saved the snake, and they definitely have enough information to prove its innocence. Ling's sister has already left to explain everything, but Mofan wants to start thinking about an antidote and asks where to find yin grass. Nearby, Ling's sister explains that people catch poisonous rats to create fake blood potions for money, and it's actually what has caused the plague. Mr. Lu explains that the eagles have started their attack again and should focus on that. However, Zhuang is surprised to hear that the rat's blood is also the reason for the attack, and asks if Mr. Lu is hiding something from him. Just then, they are informed that Supervisor Wang Yi has committed suicide, and a letter he left reveals that the rat blood was all his idea. Mofan decides that it's time for him to head back to Miss Tang, but explains that Zhang must be the one to solve the problem with the demonic eagles. The two barge into the meeting, explaining that they know how to get an antidote, and curing the plague will likely stop the bird's attack. However, Mr. Lu explains that the yin grass is located in the heart of the demonic bird's nest, and a whole team of their most powerful mages would not make it in alive. The lieutenant is feeling pretty good though, since he has a solution. Their tame celestial beasts are of the same species as demonic ones, and they will not attack each other. They can just send one to retrieve the herb for them. However, he must be reminded that they killed other celestial birds after he gave them the order to. This is Zhang's moment to shine though, since after disobeying orders, he kept his trusted Huey alive. They are concerned that his eagle will rebel just like the others did, but he reveals that Huey is a half-breed and is not affected by the other eagles. Furthermore, it won't hurt him since he doesn't tame the beast, it's just his friend. It is clear that the mythical snake is innocent, so Zhu Meng agrees to release it. Mofan goes to Miss Tang, who explains that the snake has been freed but is dying because it has lost so much blood. It needs a lot of it, and Mofan comes up with the idea to give it the blood that is poisoned. It won't have any ill effects since it's immune, and Miss Tang thinks it's a great idea. Elsewhere, Zhang plays music on his leaf to bring his trusty Huey back. Zhang explains that their mission is dangerous and failure means they might die, but it's something they must do. He asks if Huey is willing to go with him. The eagle shows that it's just as determined as he is, and the two set forth on their mission. The story continues as we see that Miss Tang has left Mofan in charge of protecting the snake, while she goes to help fight the demonic birds at the fortress. The mythical creature is in critical condition, so Mofan must hand feed it blood. Ling has been tracking Zhang and reveals that he is approaching the area possessing the cure to the disease. She is able to communicate with him and warns Zhang of a group of demonic eagles nearby. Luckily, he is not spotted, and Ling warns that he be careful since the eagles patrol the area frequently. He prepares to enter the center of their nest, and she reminds him to take extra care to not lose the dimensional bracelet. Ling must cease communication since the birds will be able to hear them, and they head towards the center. The duo can only proceed because the demonic birds seem to think that Huey is one of them. However, after Zhang has a rough landing, he is left with a cut, and the birds are instantly attracted to the smell of his blood. Huey acts quickly, getting Zhang's blood on himself and directing the demonic eagles away from him. Zhang quickly uses his wind magic to harvest the herbs directly into the bracelet, and once finished, calls Huey so that they can make their escape. The mission is a complete success, and we see that Mofan's efforts to revitalize the snake are rewarded when it is finally able to shed its skin. However, just then, they notice that Zhang's tracker has stopped moving. There are no beasts near him, and the two are shocked to hear Mr. Lu's voice over the mic. He demands that Zhang hand over his bracelet with the herbs inside, as he wants to take all the credit for ending the plague. Zhang doesn't trust him one bit, and refuses his request. Mr. Lu's desire to be the hero is strong though, and he reveals his cursed magic. Zhang's attempt to run away fails, and Mr. Lu shows the difference in their strength when he pulls Zhang into his trap. The cursed magic is burying his soul, and we see that he can no longer hold on to the bracelet. At the fortress, the council members point out how they are losing the battle, and are shocked to hear that things have just gotten worse, as the monarch eagle has joined the fight. Nearby, we see that Miss Tang is trying her best in the fight, but begins to lose hope when she encounters a group of higher level eagles. Back in the forest, Huey shows his concern for Zhang as they are attacked. The curse allows him to hear and see the brutal attack, but his body is still unable to move. Miss Tang is losing the fight, but Zhu Meng arrives to help. He is a powerful mage in his own right, and his attack shows it. However, everyone is stunned just as the monarch-level beast emerges from the clouds. Nearby, a severely injured Huey barely manages to bring Zhang back to the fortress. Ling Ling's sister informs Mo Fan that Zhang is still alive. She comforts Huey in his final moments by thanking him for saving Zhang, and stating that he is the most noble animal she has ever seen. Back at the lake, Mo Fan can no longer hold back his hatred towards Mr. Lu, and calls out the mythical snake. He asks if it wants to seek revenge, and it clearly does, so the two head towards the western fortress. Mr. Lu is being admired as a hero for bringing the cure to the disease. However, he must flee when told that the mythical snake is on its way and it has almost fully recovered. Escape is impossible though, as the snake is far too fast. Mr. Lu points out that it normally takes an entire month for the snake to shed and recover to full strength. However, Mo Fan reveals that the shedding is already complete, and Mr. Lu's contaminated blood serum is to thank for that. Their fight begins, but Mr. Lu claims that killing him will only make the people hate the mythical snake more. His threats are ignored though, and the snake uses his exceptional vision to keep him from hiding with the shadow magic. Mo Fan is stunned though when the old man reveals his star palace, but again it proves to be child's play for the snake. Mr. Lu finally realizes that he is powerless in this situation as he succumbs to the serpent's poison. That isn't enough though, as the mythical beast plans to consume him. In a last-ditch effort, Mr. Lu pleads that Mo Fan help him, promising to give him everything he could ever want. Mo Fan has no interest in helping him, but Mr. Lu reveals that he still has the bracelet containing all the herbs, and without it, they won't be able to end the plague. Mo Fan doesn't want to let Huey's death be in vain, so they stop their attack. However, just then, they see that the demonic birds are on their way to attack the safe zone, and the mythical snake eats Mr. Lu anyway. Mo Fan understands how badly the snake must have wanted revenge for hurting the city that it protects, and the two rush to the safe zone. The innocent bystanders watch as the snake fights to protect them, and they realize that they had been wrong to hate it. In that moment, Mo Fan sees in the distance that the monarch-level Silver Eagle is attacking the city, and the two must move once again. In the city, we see that members of the council are fighting the Silver Eagle, and they explain that it will take expert-level magic to pierce its armored feathers. They are capable of doing so, but the eagle won't give them the opportunity to form the Star Palace. However, it is distracted for just a moment by Mo Fan's approach, and they use the opportunity to strike. The spell does well to contain it, but the eagle calls out for backup. The group is shocked to see that it didn't actually call its comrades to fight. Instead, it sacrificed them so that the seal could be broken. The eagle's counterattack is extremely powerful, and the head of the association would like to retreat. However, Zhu Meng isn't ready to give up and promises to make the eagle regret its attack on humans. The beast is still too powerful though, and Zhu Meng's will is broken. However, just then, Mo Fan arrives and reminds the bird that it doesn't belong in the city. The battle is taken to the sky, and Mo Fan makes quick work of some of the high-rank eagles. The snake manages to grab a hold of the Silver Eagle, and the people in the city finally begin to give it credit as their protector. Mo Fan and the beast begin to get the better of the eagle, so it starts to run away. However, Mo Fan's shadow magic allows them to instantly catch up. A snake seal appears to finally subdue the Silver Eagle, and everyone watches as their protector moves in for the kill. However, they are all shocked to see that the mythical snake has decided to be merciful and sets it free. Yu Meng finally admits that he had been wrong about the ancient snake, and the residents of Bai City shower it with praise. Zhu Meng now realizes that if he would have successfully killed the snake, then the entire city would have been doomed, and decides to remove it from the hidden dangers list. Mo Fan celebrates the victory with the snake as everyone chants its name, and eventually goes to meet their friends. The snake spits out a human, and Zhu Meng changes his tone once again, vowing to imprison the beast. However, he is held back, and it's pointed out that the person is still alive. It's Mr. Lu. He begs that they spare his life and hands over the bracelet containing the herbs. The terrible things that he had done to Zhang and his loyal bird become clear to everyone, but his punishment is to be decided later. Afterwards, Mo Fan explains that he has visited Zhang, and he is expected to recover soon. Furthermore, the herb that Huey had sacrificed his life for arrived just in time to completely eliminate the plague. Everyone is able to celebrate now. Not many will know the sacrifices that were made, but Mo Fan promises to remember forever. Miss Tang then surprises Mo Fan with the refined skin that she promised him, but he asks for more since that amount is only enough to make gloves. When she threatens to take it back though, he becomes more grateful. She reminds Mofan that he will have to return to the university, but thanks him for his help before he goes. Later, Mofan finally returns home to his roommates, who can't believe their eyes. Shia thought that he had died in Jinlin City, and Mofan explains that he had to come back to life to see her nice figure one last time. She wonders if he is a ghost, and perhaps she has even awakened the undead talent. She asks that Mu not interrupt her, but doesn't realize she dropped her towel. They are glad to see he is okay though, and Mu explains that she always knew, since the bad ones never die so easily. Mofan explains that he is glad to see Mu as well, and everyone can finally be at ease. We see that there is a grand celebration for Mofan's return, but it is short-lived when it is revealed that he was just daydreaming. Moments later, a man mocks the ladies about losing a fight earlier, and Mofan mistakenly thinks he was talking about him. His big brother Dongfeng arrives, and the man wants him to teach Mofan a lesson. However, Dongfeng is familiar with Mofan's abilities, and the two leave quickly. Mofan explains that he doesn't remember him at all though, since so many have lost to him in battle. Nearby, Dongfeng strikes his brother and tells him that now is not the time to take Mofan down. Later, he goes to meet the university director, who takes the blame for not being around to protect Mofan from Mr. Liu. He goes on to explain that he has decided to reward Mofan for when he protected the students during the practical. However, he can't decide on a reward and asks Mofan what he wants. His request is simple: he would like to be moved to the fire element class since there are more people there, and it will be more fun. The director agrees and explains that he will recommend that Mofan be added to the national team so that he can participate in the world tournament. Miss Tang has recommended him as well, and the director simply asks that he not cause too much trouble. Later, Mofan returns to his hunter club, and Bao expresses his disappointment in Mofan's poor attendance. Mofan says that he would like to have armor made out of some snakeskin, and Bao explains that it is very costly. However, that won't be a problem since plenty of work has piled up since he left. All the jobs are too easy, but Bao says he will contact the best smith he knows if Mofan does them. The jobs are a bit beneath what he has gotten used to, and he completes them quickly. Mofan can't help but notice how low he has fallen after doing these jobs, and realizing he has no presence at the school either. The next day, Mofan attends the fire element class for the first time, and it is explained that their ranks will be announced that day. Those with a higher rank will receive more resources to progress faster. They then begin to mock Mofan as they think he had to transfer classes because he couldn't even keep up in the laziest class in the school. They think it's unfortunate that he ended up changing to the fire class since it's way too competitive for him. Mofan notices how wealthy a girl is, and her friend explains that he wouldn't even have a chance in his dreams. He refuses to change seats since he was there first, and she threatens him by revealing she is ranked in the top 300 in the fire class. Her friend tells her to stop, and Mofan is amazed to see how calm she is. The professor arrives, calling Mofan out for transferring classes so close to the end of the term. He explains that he doesn't accept idiotic students that drift between majors without a shred of commitment. Mofan reveals that if he's being honest, the fire campus has been a bit disappointing, pointing out how the professor said he doesn't accept trashy students, but the class is actually full of them. The professor states he has never had such an arrogant student before and wants him to prove how powerful he is. There are 1,149 students in the class. The professor calls on a girl who is ranked last and the guy who is ranked first. The students laugh as he points out the difference between them, and explains that the list is the cruel result of countless clashes between all the students. The professor explains that he will start Mofan at rank 100 so that he can watch him let it slip through his fingers. Mofan is confused about why the chimp of a professor would give him such a high rank, and Zindli explains that it's actually a pretty bad spot to be in. A high rank is only good if he is able to protect it from the hordes of students waiting to fight him. That's because the winner gets to swap rankings with the loser. However, this means that everyone with a higher rank than him won't want to fight him, since they have nothing to gain. Mofan makes an attempt to befriend the quiet girl, but is again stopped. That night, Mofan shows his roommates the magic accelerator he received for being rank 100, and they explain that he will get another fire element tool if he can get above rank 50. Mofan wonders how fast his training speed would be if he used those tools inside the 3-step tower. Mu reveals that he will be able to train there above rank 50 as well, but all those students are extremely rich. Mofan is determined to get there though, and prepares for his next journey. The story continues as Mofan does some target practice with his fire magic, and some of his new classmates watch.
They don't think his strength is very impressive, and they can't understand why their professor would rank him 100 out of 1,000 fire class students. Mofan simply laughs when he hears this, and we see what happened on the first day of class. The professor immediately seems to hate Mofan, calling his decision to transfer to his class trash. Mofan, who has always been quick-witted, points out how if he doesn't like trash so much, then why is his class full of trash? One of the students watching Mofan explains that the professor only gave Mofan rank 100 so that they can take it away from him. We see that this is true as the professor storms out of the class while giving him the rank, and stating that he will see what he gets for running his mouth. This is actually pretty bad for Mofan, as one of the other students explains that on challenge day, everyone can challenge anyone ahead of them, and the challenged person can't refuse. If they do refuse, then they will automatically give up their ranking and be forced to return the resources given to them for training. They realize that not only is Mofan rank 100, but he has also offended the entire class. On challenge day, there will definitely be hundreds of people coming after him. These three decide to go after him as well, as they determine that it's the price of arrogance and ignorance. Mofan overhears the entire thing but couldn't care less, and even sends a message with a powerful fireball. Afterwards, Mofan thinks about getting something to eat when he sees the last ranked student named Zhengji practicing a spell. Mofan doesn't let him run away as he admits that everyone hates him, but there's no need to run away. Zhengji just talks poorly about himself, stating that he is ranked last in class, he sucks, and is definitely the kind of trash Mofan was talking about. Mofan thinks about the spell he just saw Zhengji use, and determines that his potential isn't bad. His problem is that he has no confidence, since if he works hard, he could definitely become an impressive mage. Mofan wants to help, but Zhengji explains that it's too late, since he has already decided to leave the school after this year. Mofan doesn't want him to give up on himself, and gives him an item to help improve his training. He states that Zhengji's problem is not his abilities, but his lack of resources to help him progress as fast as the other students. Furthermore, everyone got into the school because they have exceptional abilities, including him. He points out how dumb the rankings are, but acknowledges that Zhengji is probably nervous about challenge day. Zhengji can't understand why Mofan is helping him since they are practically strangers, and Mofan explains that he reminds him of a friend of his. Also, he can't stand bullies and thinks it would be cool to slap all the bullies right across the face. Zhengji points out that he won't be able to help him during the challenges, but Mofan explains that he'll be okay. Mofan then arrives at the arena where he is called up to meet with the professor. The professor carries a stack of paper with all the people who are eager to challenge Mofan. The professor will allow Mofan to just quit if he writes him a check and bows his head to apologize to all the students he insulted. If he does this, then he can just go home and will even allow Mofan to keep his status as a student. Mofan states that all that isn't necessary and declines the offer. The professor then goes on to announce that 231 people have challenged Mofan, and the first to fight him will be number 726 ranked Jiang Wu. The professor is pretty invested in the fight, as he explains that if Mofan can't even beat the guy ranked 726, then he should just leave the fire school. Mofan explains to the professor that he is getting too ahead of himself, and Wei's coworker wonders why he is so upset. Wei thinks his colleague is too soft on the students. He points out that Mofan was personally transferred over to this school by Dean Chao. Mofan had always been a star pupil, but he is far too overconfident, and likely it's just all talk. If they don't show Mofan how weak he actually is, then his confidence will likely lead to him dying at the hand of a demon. Jiang Wu starts the fight by casting a little spell, but Mofan amazes the crowd with a burst of fire. Jiang Wu manages to block Mofan's fire punch, but its force is too powerful. Jiang Wu is knocked back against the barrier and Mofan is announced the winner. Wei's coworker points out that it doesn't seem like Mofan is just bragging and might actually be strong. Wei states that he only beat rank 726, and there are plenty more students to come. A girl named Smile is next, and Mofan points out how contradictory her spells are since she uses water and fire. She begins with water, but is shocked to see that Mofan's fire attacks are too powerful. Their gap in strength is too great, so she quits. A man named Lang acknowledges how powerful Mofan is, and greets the wealthy girl in school named Ding. Mofan finishes up another student, and Wei hopes the next one will actually do something. Mofan stops everything though to explain that he needs to go to the bathroom. Wei is furious that Mofan doesn't seem to be taking the challenges seriously, and Mofan thinks about how they can't force him to not go to the bathroom. Mofan returns to beat some more students and then asks for a water break. Wei can't believe he needs another break, and wonders if he will have to let him take another nap again. Mofan tells him not to be silly since they shouldn't be wasting time. In the stands, the students marvel at how Mofan has already defeated 50 students, and has only been using the same attack over and over. Wei is stunned to see that no one has managed to hurt Mofan at all, and hopes that the next person can finally beat him, but is shocked to see who it is. The students watching then begin to laugh when they see that it's Zheng Ji, and everyone thinks that Mofan will have an easy fight. Mofan wonders why Zheng Ji is so nervous and assures him that everything will be just fine as long as they follow the plan. A flashback then shows how Mofan told him that the second Zheng Ji makes a move, he will admit defeat. Again, Zheng Ji can't understand why he's doing this, and Mofan explains that if he loses to Zheng Ji, then they will switch ranks. This way, Mofan can be ranked last so no one can challenge him, but he will be able to challenge whoever he wants. Furthermore, Zheng Ji will get the 100th rank and all the training resources that come with it. Zheng Ji seems to still be a bit hesitant, and he wonders if it's really okay to do this since he fears all the other students will look down on him. Mofan points out that they don't value him now, and only the strong can be respected in this environment. They already think of him as a joke, and he is already at rock bottom. Zheng Ji fails to use a spell, and Mofan points out that there is nothing wrong with his magic, it's his nerves. Mofan then completely turns on him as he points out that he is just embarrassing himself, and might as well go home. This sparks something in Zheng Ji, and Mofan is glad to see that he has some self-esteem. Zheng Ji struggles again though, and has thoughts about being mocked by his peers. He apologizes while giving Mofan his item back and quits. Mofan tries to stop him, but Professor Wei tells him to hurry up. Not only is he embarrassing himself, but he's also embarrassing him, while wasting everyone's time. Zheng Ji apologizes again and states that he really did try his best. Mofan points out that Zheng Ji didn't refuse when he initially told him his plan, and wonders why he is struggling now. He can't understand why Zheng Ji is so desperate to please the other students, and points out how none of them have ever valued him. Mofan calls him cowardly and selfish for leaving him alone, and states that he has let him down. Mofan regrets saying that Zheng Ji reminded him of a friend of his, since that now seems like the biggest insult to his friend. This triggers Zheng Ji as he points out that Mofan befriended him to escape from having to fight everyone, and he is just using him. Mofan is then the one to become upset now, as he states that he doesn't need to escape the fights at all, and was just trying to avoid fighting so he doesn't embarrass the entire school by beating them all. Mofan then tells Zheng Ji to stand by and watch, as not everyone is a piece of trash coward like he is. He wants Zheng Ji to watch carefully as he demonstrates that all the students that Zheng Ji so desperately wants to please mean nothing to him. Mofan then announces to everyone that if he can't defeat every single challenger, then he will bow down to all 1,000 students one by one and admit his mistake. He then calls Professor Wei a gorilla as he demands that he call on the next challenger. Wei is absolutely furious now as the students can't believe what they just heard. He calls out for a student named Jaya to step forward, and the students are shocked to hear that Jaya might actually be there. Wei's coworker points out how Jaya is the student who often goes hunting for dangerous monsters in the wild. A mage hunter student who ranks among the best in the entire academy in actual combat ability. If it wasn't for him offending some members of an aristocratic family, his rank would be far higher than it is now. Jaya arrives to explain to Mofan that the weak attacks he was using against everyone else won't work against him, but Mofan isn't interested in talking. The story continues as Mofan's fire punch is easily blocked by Jaya. All the students in the crowd cheer as it's clear that Mofan's flames can't penetrate Jaya's barrier. They have become frustrated to see that Mofan has only been using basic fire magic this entire time. What's worse is he has upgraded it to level 4, which no one ever does, but it's extremely powerful. They tell Jaya to take his time and show Mofan how weak he really is. Jaya tells Mofan that his attack is completely useless against him, and gives Mofan a taste of his shadow magic. Mofan blocks it, but spectators point out that Jaya's shadow magic is at the mid-tier level, and it will prevent Mofan from using his fire attacks. Mofan wasn't expecting someone so strong at this low of a rank, and shocks everyone when he shows that his fire is at mid-tier level as well. Jaya isn't flustered though and uses a unique shadow attack that catches Mofan off guard. Mofan easily escapes with his beast boots while also gaining the upper hand in the fight, but is surprised to see that his fire burst is stopped by Jaya's magical armor. Jaya uses the opportunity to counterattack, but he just barely misses, much to the disappointment of all the students. Mofan covers himself with his spirit grade flames, and everyone marvels at how many techniques he has. Lang wonders if Jaya is done for, but is relieved to see that someone finally managed to make Mofan use mid-tier magic. Ding points out that it took at least 30 students to do it, but her friend says that they're at least making progress. Wei's co-worker named Bai laments how all the students are cheering about forcing Mofan to use mid-tier magic, even though they haven't won anything yet. Jaya tells Mofan that his fire attacks will never penetrate his armor, so there is no way for him to win. Mofan thinks about how continuing to use fire attacks will only drain more of his energy, so he decides to shock everyone at his new school by revealing his lightning magic. Lightning magic is able to penetrate magical armor, and everyone is amazed to see that Mofan has won yet again. Bai is in disbelief to see that Mofan has level 4 basic attacks for both the fire and lightning talent, and realizes now why he was able to so confidently show up to be challenged. He assumes that Mofan has become arrogant after gaining his power with his family's wealth, but in reality Mofan's family is poor, and he earned his strength with hard work. Bai points out that any challenger below rank 140 has no chance of beating him, and in the stands Lang is impressed to see that Mofan seems to have hidden quite a few secrets from everyone. Ding's friend is furious to see that no one has managed to beat Mofan, but Lang reveals that he doesn't want him to be knocked down too soon. We then watch a pretty sweet montage of Mofan defeating students over and over again, as he demands that his gorilla of a teacher send down the next opponent. Around the entire school, we see that news has spread of what's happening at the arena. Students point out that the Fire Campus students have always been so arrogant, and it's good that they're finally being cut down to size. The Fire Campus is mocked by everyone since they tried to gang up on a single transfer student, but they're the ones getting wrecked instead. They're amazed to see that the transfer student is standing tall and taking on the entire campus. He has already beaten over 60 challengers in a row, and it doesn't look like he'll ever back down. The fight is becoming famous, and students from all across the entire school begin to flock to the arena. Spectators are glad to see that someone is finally managing to put up a fight, and Mofan is clearly beginning to struggle as he has depleted a lot of mana. Mofan's opponent thinks he should just quit and be satisfied with how far he has gotten. She compliments him on managing his mana up to this point, but he is clearly done for. Mofan is annoyed to hear that she's trying to claim victory even though his mana was depleted by everyone else. He wonders if she really thinks that he can't do anything to defeat her, and shows that he has plenty of strength left. His attack shatters the ground, but she stops it, so Mofan uses even more power. Bai thinks he has to stop the fight to save the girl from certain death, but Mofan stops his attack, and she admits defeat. Bai is amazed to see that Mofan is not only proficient with his skills, but he is also able to control them freely, and with extreme precision. Mofan is clearly very arrogant, but stopping his attack shows that he is also a kind person at heart. Wei then makes his way down to Mofan, as Mofan wonders what the gorilla wants. Wei wants to end the fights for the day. He states that Mofan's performance has already proven his astounding strength to everyone, and Wei takes back what he said before. Mofan states that it's silly that Wei thinks that he has been fighting this entire time because of what he said. We then see that Zhengji listens closely as Mofan states that no one is born trash, and they become trash when they give up on themselves. Wei points out that Mofan has nearly depleted all his mana, and wonders how he plans to fight the rest of the students since their rankings only get higher from here on. Mofan just tells him to mind his own business and demands that the next challenger be sent in. Wei returns to his spot and calls on the very popular rank 111 Lang. The crowd cheers wildly as they clamor over how handsome he is. Lang states that he would have preferred to have fought Mofan first, before his mana was depleted. He would rather not take advantage of the situation, but determines that this farce of a battle has to end with someone. He introduces himself to Mofan, but Mofan just wants to know who he thinks is more handsome between the two of them. Lang states that they both have their own good qualities, but Mofan tells him he is wrong and that he is leagues above him. Bai tells Qian that his transfer student from the Lightning Campus is outstanding, but Qian explains that he has never seen Mofan before. Wei points out that Mofan's second element is lightning, which means he must have come from the Lightning Campus, and if he didn't, then where could he possibly have come from? Professor Yi arrives and explains that Mofan came from her summoning campus. Wei refuses to believe this since it would mean Mofan is an advanced mage with 3 elements, so Yi shows him a notice proving it. Everyone is shocked to see that it's true, and watches Mofan finally at long last uses his summoning ability. Everyone in the stadium marvels as a warrior rank beast appears, and Mofan greets his loyal companion Wolfie. More shock comes from the crowd as everyone begins to realize that Mofan is the one ranked 5th on the talent list. What makes it more unbelievable is that that person was rumored to have died. Ding then remembers everything as she states that Bai is the guy who was born with 2 innate talents. In the summoning department, he defeated several students to take their resources. This earned him the title of Great Demon King, and he has even returned from the dead. Wolfie instantly begins to overwhelm Lang. Mofan goes through with his plan to start taking some time to restore his mana, and leaves the rest to his old friend Wolfie. Fans cheer loudly as Lang manages to land an attack, but Wolfie shows his immense power by once again overwhelming Lang by just breathing. Wolfie toys with Lang a bit more, but eventually beats him. Wei attempts to call another opponent, but he instantly decides to forfeit. Elsewhere, the dean is informed that Mofan is once again causing trouble, and some students read a headline stating that a wild transfer student is completing an impossible challenge and the fire campus has no way to stop him. We then watch as Wolfie defeats another student. Bai explains that Mofan has already taken down 183 students and begins to wonder if he will actually defeat the entire army. Mofan then thanks Wolfie for his hard work and sends him back to recover, as he will take care of the rest. Wei then calls on the next challenger named Zhao, and everyone cheers as he is the strongest among all the challengers and is ranked 101. The crowd's cheers become louder and Mofan points out how popular Zhao is. Zhao explains that it's not about how much they like him, and more about how much they hate Mofan. Zhao reveals that he was originally ranked 100, but Mofan just arrived and was immediately given his spot. Zhao is furious about getting pushed out of the top 100, but determined to take back his place. Zhao states that he won't take it easy on him, and surprises Mofan when he shows that he has the light element. Mofan is confident he can defeat him, but finds that his lightning attack was easily stopped. Zhao explains that it was all part of his plan. He wonders how much mana could Mofan possibly have after using yet another mid-tier attack, and decides to make him pay for his arrogance. He prepares an incredibly powerful attack, and we see that Mofan is being overwhelmed. Thanks for watching part 22. This is an ongoing anime and we're all caught up, so it might be another week before the next episode.